across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum with me, Samara Gill. I'm in for the great Kevin O'Sullivan. He is off for just one night only, don't worry, but I will be here to helm the good ship that is the Political Asylum. It's, as I always say, it's just the asylum and I'm hosting, so, you know, at least I've got someone to hold up the politics of it all. I've got Pete Barnes here in the studio. We've got Andrea Jenkins coming down the line very shortly, and there's one thing in town. I mean, there's one kind of massive story, and that is that Rachel Reeves has actually been found to officially have really lied to the people. You know, this whole thing has been kind of confusing, especially when it comes to the economy. You need straightforward sort of, I need to know exactly what happened. And essentially what happened is a couple weeks ago, she came and scared the entire economy, the public, by coming out with this strange little announcement about how horrible the British economy is. I wonder who'd been running that for the last who'd been running that for the last 18 months. Oh wait, it was her. Well, it turns out a lot of that was a lot of toff, a lot of guff. And we've had Richard Hughes, who has just resigned just a couple hours ago as chairman of the Office of Budget Responsibility. So a financial watchdog, obviously they accidentally leaked Rachel Reeves' budget 45 minutes before the Chancellor unveiled it, her fiscal measures in the House of Commons. Now there are tweets, you know, sort of revealing that potentially someone tried to access that 32 times. I mean, is this a country that we're running, or is this some sort of small business that has no idea? I mean, I've seen small businesses run better than how this country is being run at the moment. Let's go straight down to Andrea Jenkins, Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire for Reform UK. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Hello, good to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Always a pleasure. What is going on? Do you think Rachel will survive? Because at this point, I'm starting to think she can't handle this amount of pressure.
The thing is, I think that she does need to step down. I mean, to blatantly mislead like that. And I think the OBR chief today resigning, I think that really, I think they're hoping it could be used as a scapegoat, so she doesn't need to resign. So I think she should resign, but unfortunately, Labour's like Teflon. They seem to be getting away with a lot more than most people do get away with, most other political parties, don't they?
You're right. If this was a Tory Chancellor, obviously you were previously in the Tories, now very much Reform UK. But if this was a Tory Chancellor, do you think that they would have survived
Liz Truss, look what they did to Liz Truss.
Well, I know, and everything that Liz has been saying is somewhat kind of coming true. I mean, her sermon that she put out on the day of the budget, I was like, yes, that's correct. I mean, she's literally quoting Churchill, as Pete also said. You know, you can't tax a nation into prosperity. How difficult is it, Rachel? Pete, I want to bring you in on this. I mean, what do you think about what's going on? Because I'm just starting to think, is this the final night? I mean, yeah, I don't want to. That'll be a long conversation.
I'll take him a nice 4 hours if you like. I'll probably do another week on this because I think we have to separate the two issues. But we're too easily conflating both of them. That realistically, there is the issue of the management of the OBR, and then there's the issue of Rachel Reeves. We keep putting them together like they're intrinsically linked. There's two very distinct things, because I go back to March. Back in March, the OBR had a potential breach in their cybersecurity, and it very clearly was not plugged up. It was a report that was published that said they need to tighten everything up. That didn't happen, and now we've got the failure because of this budget leak.
They want to use them as a scapegoat.
Yes, so there's definitely that element of it. But again, I don't think he should have resigned. He should have been fired, in my opinion. It's a firing offence. This is a major document that has huge ramifications for the markets, both here and internationally, and it was leaked. It was a catastrophe. He should have been fired. He should have been held accountable. Now, on the issue of Rachel Reeves, it's what she lied, so it must be a day of the week. This woman and the truth have never been in the same room. Like, I go back to when, before she was even in office, when she wrote that book about women in the economy. You know, like 20 instances of plagiarism in it. that was before she even get into the fact that she wasn't really an economist, and and everything else that she's gone through, plus her expenses and all that stuff. I mean, the woman is everything wrong in Westminster in a person, because she can't tell the truth. She's lousy with the actual job, because let's be real, running the economy is something she can't do. And more, but the thing that annoys me the most, she hides behind sexism and misogyny claims and things like that. She uses things as a shield to protect herself from criticism, when all of this is her own fault. She should resign. I don't think she's going to, because there's the problem of Keir Starmer and Rachel Reese's careers are kind of interlinked. So if she goes, Keir has to go. Not necessarily as a solid rule, but that's usually how convention works. But I just don't see her going, because I don't think Keir Starmer's got it in him to fire her, considering he should have fired Angela Rayner, and he didn't do that. So
but they're a 2-for-1 deal. I think if she goes, he also goes. So I think that's why they haven't toppled each other, it seems.
Yeah, it's all about whether the backbenchers are willing to put up with this and how long they're going to stomach it. That's the question.
Are you going to let me get in?
Sorry. I told you, don't let me go in.
30 seconds.
Andrea, what's your response to that? I mean, Farage is calling for a probe into this. I would agree with that.
Look, and I haven't interrupted you, Pete, because I like it, by the way, even though we're not always on the same page. Look, I completely agree what Nigel did. And one thing the public cannot stand is hypocrisy and incompetence. And we've got both of that in barrels with the Labour government. She should resign. But I agree with you there, Pete. She should resign. I just don't believe she's going to. And I'd be very surprised if Starmer does sack her. There's got to be a probe. I mean, to actually blatantly lead not only mislead Parliament, the cabinet, but also the newspapers. If you remember very early on, people were saying there wasn't this big black hole, but then the newspapers jumped on that then and was just saying, so they've misled everybody. And so there's got to be repercussions. Do I think it'll happen just now? No, but we know what it's like. It was like this with the Tory party. It's drip feed, and then it'll come to a big crescendo at some point.
Well, that's the thing, everyone's calling for resignations, etc. But the damage is already done. She already affected the economy massively with her little mini announcement that destabilized everything. Businesses were freaking out. The pound fell. All these terrible...
How dare she say that about Liz Truss? That was my point earlier.
Well, which is it's precisely. I mean, really, this is kind of a moment where the public kind of finally does wake up, because we've almost got very concrete evidence of Starmer's government and how it's built on dishonesty. Where to go from here, and who might potentially replace Reeves if she is removed?
I mean, look, first of all, look, Miliband is sniffing around, isn't he?
Oh, God.
So heaven help us all.
Okay.
So God help us, definitely.
I'm going to say, don't put that out in the universe, Dame Andrea.
Well, and you've seen earlier, he was meant to be the one who was briefing against, it says the media briefing against the government, so he's manoeuvring. But also, it's got quite bad for the Labour Party when even Guardian journalists are criticising them.
Well,
so
yes.
it must be end of days. I mean, for God's sake, the Guardian. So who will replace him? I think we're a long way off yet. They don't have the same kind of mechanism or ruthlessness as the Tory party, do they, Pete?
Yeah, that's very true.
And they don't have the same mechanism. So I think they're there a while longer. And look, we know that Andy Burnham wants to be leader. But one thing I want to talk about is, did you see the 3 former Tory MP defections to Reform today?
Well, yes, I would love your thoughts on that. I mean, Gullis is obviously a friend of the station. I mean, I've spoken to him many times. I kind of did see that coming a mile off. Of course, people have brought up Richard Tice's fateful tweet that he made last Christmas, essentially, saying that he knows where Gullis's skeletons are, or, what have you. They haven't always been on flowery terms, let's just say. What do you make of these defections? I mean, Kemi seemed a little bit dead behind the eyes when she was questioned about it on Sky News earlier.
I mean, the one I'm actually really pleased about, I mean, I like them all. They're all former colleagues, but the one who was a good friend was Chris Green, actually.
Right.
He is a solid conviction politician. I mean, he stood against the lockdowns. He was very pro-Brexit. And he's just a solid, good constituency MP he was. And he stands by his convictions. So I welcome people like that to our party.
I agree with you about Chris Green, but I do also think it is starting to look like, I know this is overused, but reform is morphing into, Tory light or what have you. Where do you draw the line? How does that process happen? Does an MP come to you and say, hey, I want to defect, or what? I mean, excuse my ignorance, but I am starting to think that, do you get to pick and choose, or do the Tories just decide to defect? Because it's looking a little bit like some of them are just deciding, to join the winning team late in the game.
But I'm sure there's some of that, without a doubt. But also, I mean, I'm aware of some who didn't make the grade as well.
Right.
So, I'm obviously not going to mention names on here. Remember, I'm on the board, etc.
Yes.
So no, of course, we're choosy. We only want people who believe in the reform cause, who will fully get behind Nigel and work our socks off to, get into government and get the country back on its feet. They've got to have the same vision. We don't want opportunists.
I mean, it's difficult because as the more and more defections that you get, you can get clips of people like Gullis or even others saying bad things about reform and trashing reform. Is that going to be an issue, do you think, coming into the next election?
No, I mean, look, that's politics, isn't it? You always, look, I've known Nigel and Richard coming up to nearly 9 years now. And we worked in Brexit together, so I've always admired both of them. But I've had my spat with Richard before, etc. But that was in the election last year. That's politics. But we're friends and etc. And so, yeah, when you're in opposition parties, the knives come out, so to speak. Mind you, it comes out in your own party. The Tories sit here.
Pete,
we don't want any of that in reform, though. Yeah.
Give it time. Give it time.
Yes. Well, Pete, you've left the Tories.
Yes,
This is quite,
I know. At one point, I think there was just me.
Yeah. What's going on with you? It does seem like there's another defection every week. It just depends. I mean, I think you were a very early.
As well.
You were an early adopter of the cause, Andrea, so I feel like if I were you, I'd be thinking, well, I defected early on. I was very early onto it, and now all these people are just jumping ship when they can see that the Tory party is going nowhere. Why did you leave the Tories? We never had this discussion.
No. Well, basically...
Have you actually left?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Yeah, I did.
No way. Why, you joined the Lib Dems or something?
Oh, no, excuse me.
Come on, you're more of a Lib Dem.
Oh, please. I'm more conservative than everybody watching this right now. Thank you very much. But for me, it
not to laugh at yourself.
No, for me, it was actually the fact that I don't think political parties, any of them, are actually in a position to fix the problems that we have. I think it's a fundamental reshaping that we need.
Say.
Yeah, it's also what reform also say, by the way. But yeah, do you remember you were changing politics? But no, that's always been my thing. I don't see parties, any political party, as the way to fix things because they're the ones that broke it. So
are you with any party at the moment?
No.
Okay.
No, and I don't see myself joining one or being part of one for some time, because I do think what we're seeing is a realigning, a kind of reshaping of politics in a fundamental way. And I don't think even most of the parties that are around now, I don't think will exist in about 10 years' time. I think they'll all be different again because our politics is changing, the conversations we have are changing. So parties, these big broad church parties, don't work anymore.
Well,
so can I just ask? I saw a video online last night, and it looked like you was at your party launch at the weekend, Pete.
Me? Yes, yeah. You know that can't have been right because I was here. Yes, because they really like people like me.
I love you, Andrea. This is hilarious.
Oh, great. Pick on Pete Day.
Well, the thing is, what I like, and especially when you do your phone-ins with us, Andrea, is that, whoever phones in, you ask them to join the reform cause. And that's what I've always seen before.
You haven't asked Pete, though, have you?
No. I don't think I would quite make the grade, if I'm afraid.
Well, that's the issue.
A bit like
there.
Suella.
The issue there is that I always thought of reform as more, people who then want to join politics and, can work their way up a little more quickly. What I do get really cynical about are these waves of Tories joining who it's not about the cause, it's about getting another paycheck and a job. What would you say to that criticism? Because there is a lot of it flying around at the moment, and I think that...
people said it about me, didn't they? But
I think the difference now is, Dave Andrew, that when you joined the reform wasn't really
You were ahead
going
of your
anywhere. You were
time.
ahead of the time. Now,
Yeah,
there's a lot
absolutely.
likely.
No, I
I think
understand
that
that,
I think
yeah.
the nature's changed, but
Absolutely. No, but I'm saying, so I'm not a hypocrite. People said that about
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I could have saved my seat if I defected beforehand when I got asked. But I believed in going down with that sinking ship. And I believed I made the right choice at the right time, actually. And look, I joined Reform because I fully believe in Nigel, in Richard, in Zia. And I think they're quite inspirational people. They always say it as it is. And I think they're fabulous. And I think Nigel, one day, God willing, to make a brilliant Prime Minister. But I get what you're saying. And I've had conversations saying that, we need to be choosy about who we do have on board. Of course we do. Yeah. And having been in the Whip's office, I know some of the backgrounds of some of these people. So I certainly will make my my thoughts known of anybody who's trying to cross over as well, because I think people need to know what they're getting, really.
Can I ask can I just ask a quick question on that? Because you were in the Whip's office. Do you think that's going to be a big problem for reform? Because obviously you've got a lot of very conviction, very kind of driven people, and obviously if you get into government, you're going to need to kind of get all on the same page. I think that's going to be a big problem for reform if the personalities don't match being a member of parliament, if you know what I mean, like the actual physical bit of it.
This is why we need to choose very carefully our parliamentary candidates, Pete. I mean, what I've found is the bigger the majority, the harder it is to control. Because I was a rebel, wasn't I?
Just
once
a little.
You rebel I only did it on conviction stuff, though. Once you rebel once, when you got a big majority, you think, oh, it'll still get through, it won't matter. But then there's a groundswell. And when the polls start not being great, as what happened with the Tory party, then I'm not saying that's happening with reform, but that's where the trouble starts. And I think that the same will happen with Labour, what happened with the Conservatives. Get to 2 years in, to 2.5 years, people will start wanting to save their own bacon, so to speak, and they'll start believing their own hype that they are bigger than the party, which nobody is really.
Nobody apart from maybe Nigel.
Nigel's about the only one. So look, can they control it? Yes, because we are choosing very carefully. I mean, look, I didn't pass vetting initially because it came up at my finger moment outside number 10.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So they do quite stringent checks.
That's when you became a national hero.
They do quite stringent checks, which I think is important. Obviously, some will slip through the cracks, but no. And working with HQ, the professionalism there, honestly, Pete, it's far more professional than CCHQ. I know the bars.
I don't think that's difficult, if I'm being honest.
But they are far more professional. And the thing about reform is you're on a journey. It's about the cause. It's about saving our country. And the country, I don't think, has ever been in such a bad state. So I don't think many people would, mess up with this and rebel, as you're saying, because we know what the alternative is like.
One last one, Andrea. I was actually on our sister station, Sky News Australia, earlier this morning, and part of the reason my eyes are like, keeping up with Australia time. But I was covering a story for them, which I didn't even see really, is that Reform's polling has slipped quite a lot in the last polls. Do you have anything to say to that? Why might that be happening? I mean, as I said to them on air, it's been Farage mania the last year. Yes. I don't quite know what's going on. Is that people are saying, Kemi's up to her game. She's putting people to task on the dispatch box. For me, I think with Kemi, too little, too late, personally. What do you have to say about Reform's slight slip in the polls?
Look, but we've got a poll what's come out today and we're 1 point ahead. Look, polls go up and down, and what was it, 150 in a row we was leading. But no, I think that, look, what the Conservatives, Kemi had one good session at the dispatch box. It doesn't make her a good leader. It doesn't mean that she's going to save Britain. Far from it, if anything, given her record. But let's see, the media like drama, don't they? It's what sells newspapers. So they're going to pit both parties against each other. That's politics, isn't it? But I think the trust has been severely lost with the Conservatives. They've let down Britain. The Labour Party, gosh, it's a car crash right before our eyes. And reform's the only answer. So, it might go up and down slightly, but, God willing, it'll still lead us into number 10.
There you go. That's Dame Andrea Jenkins, the great Dame Andrea Jenkins, Reform UK Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. Well, that's interesting. I mean, this morning I said, you know, well, actually, an Australian host was saying to me, well, anything that the Conservatives say, they had 14 years to do it. And I'm like, you're telling me this, you know, this is
definitely
the
that
reality
line,
of what's going on.
but you can't, if you keep using that one, you can allow the Labour Party to keep saying the same thing. This is you've got to play it both sides. But the reason that Reform has plateaued to a degree is simply because they've got the obvious vote. They've got the disaffected, they've got the angry, they've got that vote. They've now got to try and shift into a broader appeal to get the middle Englandy vote. Do you know? And I think this budget will help them, but there is always the big elephant in the room, and that is economic competency. I would remind people that at one point Nigel was also in favour of scrapping the two-child benefit thing not so long ago. He said, I don't need to do my sums. Those things are what people in kind of the lower middle class actually pay attention to, because it's budgets, it's running a household, it's about making sure that you stay within your means. And when you make claims like that, people remember them. But again, this is all, we're so far away from the general election in reality.
Well, that's what I mean. They seem to be losing a bit of momentum here.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. They've got to keep powering through. And the reason that Kemi's really cut through on this is because it's economics, and the Reform have always been lagging there. Now, bringing Danny Kruger across, he's a great guy in terms of getting the kind of the policy bit right, but they're not selling it well enough. They're not getting out there and saying, well, what we're going to do. They're starting to turn into the party a little bit of say, that's terrible, that's awful. What they've got to do is start to say, that's awful, we're going to fix it by doing this, and shift the conversation to what they're going to do, not what's awful, because everybody knows everything is awful.
Well, it's their version of conservatism, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this.
It's
it is
reactionaryism.
exactly what happened in America with Trump, where Farage is creating his own brand of conservatism. Yes. Now, the only fear about this is that the party does live and die with him at the moment. Yep. There is no natural successor that I can think of. I mean, I know that people fling names around, but even when you hear Dame Andrea, who I've got a lot of time for her, talk about, well, I'm loyal to
Nigel, I clocked that
Zia,
well.
and ties. You don't hear Tories speak like that, or even Labour people. And yes, I think it's definitely a symptom of Trumpism, which, again, I'm a massive Trumper. I love that man, and I think what he's done for conservatism is fantastic. But yeah, you do start to see, is this a sprint or is this a marathon? And I think that's the big question.
And it's about, for me, I'm glad to hear that they've kind of sorted themselves out HQ-wise, because it is about the machine. Running a political party is a huge operation, and they need the people. And at one point, we also kind of noticed that there wasn't a lot of people running around in Reform actually doing the job of a political party. And hopefully they'll manage to fill that in time. But if they have a snap general election, I think Reform are going to become very unstuck. And I think that is going to be a problem for the country, because I still think that a kind of Conservative and Reform union is the most likely way forward.
Well, it seems like Reform will be inheriting an economic mess if they get into power 2029. 0344 499 1000 is the number. Do give me a call. I think I got 2 phone lines open, so please do get in there while you can. We'll be doing a exclusive story after the break.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, I've got a really special guest in studio. I was absolutely bowled over by this man's exclusive in the Express. You can go check that out because he's done some proper investigative journalism. He's done something that, quite frankly, the government isn't doing at the moment and should be doing. In a way, it's almost highlighted to me, not that it's easy, but that it is doable to kind of curtail this sort of crime. But clearly no one wants a bar of it. And essentially what it's about are the illegal delivery men, the ones that have really been taking the system and just absolutely running all over it. There's a massive illegal dark market of people that go and deliver your food. You know, you don't know if whoever's handing you over that meal is legal or illegal in the country for their status. And you also just don't know how they got there. So it's a very dark and insidious industry that's operating. You know, the government's claiming that they've cracked down on it. They absolutely haven't, it seems. Well, I've got in the studio Zach Garner-Perkis. He's the investigations editor at the Daily Express. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
What led you down this path? Because it's a really, really impressive video. It's taking off online, and it's also obviously an article as well. How did you find this person that was essentially selling the identity of his wife, was it, and multiple other people?
Yeah, well, so in the summer we went down to the migrant hotels where it was just brazen illegal working on the the delivery apps that everybody knows and uses, the Deliveroo's, the Just Eats, the Uber Eats. So after that, obviously there was a big crackdown from the government, and we wanted to be like, well, what's happening? Are they still doing it? Is it still going on? And it didn't take too. It wasn't hiding into
like
hard
the
to find
government wants
places.
you to believe, yeah.
A
little bit.
Yeah. Well, so essentially, it was on Facebook Marketplace. You can go on there and rent an account. So
right.
We went on there with a story that we thought would be the most extreme version. So it was we had a relative who was an illegal migrant who was living in a hotel. They set us up with work, and what we found was essentially the right to work in the UK is a commodity. It's something that's being traded, bought and sold online, and you can make decent money for it. Because like you say, one of the people that we came across, he was flogging an account with his wife's identity.
Yeah.
How he was getting around the facial recognition was you would operate in the area their home was, and every time it asked you for a face ID, you go back, scan her face. Yeah. And he had accounts he was renting out accounts with all the major platforms, making a good few £100 a week just sat there. Wow. And what's he monetizing? The right to work.
Yeah, and he's actually in himself. He's exploiting someone in that process. Like it's not just that that person is the victim. He's made it's not a form of human trafficking, but it is a form of exploitation, I would say. And I think that what's quite interesting with this is that multiple times you told him during this process, this is an illegal migrant, this is an illegal migrant, and he had no issue with that. In fact, he seemed actually quite happy to oblige. You went to meet him on Oxford Street, and then he didn't meet you, right?
So we had a few. So
you got, yeah. So there were a few people.
There was multiple ones. So we had one guy who, again, we repeatedly said to him, "Look, this person doesn't have legal right to work." They were like, "No, it's no problem." He didn't show up for the final meeting, but we had another person that had a Stewart account,
right?
And they let us log in. So we actually got into that, and the jobs just started pinging up. When we went into the settings, we actually saw that it was registered under a woman's name.
Oh, interesting.
And I think this is the thing, which is that the crackdown that we saw in the summer, where they started going around the migrant hotels, they started making arrests. The real thing at the root of it, which they haven't been able to tackle, was behind every single one of those illegal workers was someone with the legal right to work, that the money was going into someone's account.
Right.
And that still exists, and there's still ways around it. And yeah, as we found, as easy as going on social media.
Well, that's the thing. I always feel like, especially the Labour government, just is not within the 21st century. Like, they have absolutely no clue about what's going on. Because I'm at the moment talking to someone who's an illegal migrant who had 8 different appeals to his case, and he's in a world of trouble. And I'm talking to him in a journalistic capacity, saying, you know, come on my show and let's discuss it. But I also, you know, went on TikTok and found a people smuggler very easily. Took me 3 minutes, you know. I am starting to think that with these crackdowns that Labour sort of says that they're doing, they're not actually up to date with this sort of thing. It's not someone waiting on a beach. It's a very interwebbed group of people that exist internationally around the and also in terms of this delivery service around the country. So we're talking about something that really does need to be cracked down in a more techie kind of way. Now, techie sounds very basic, but they need to actually... Do you think that Just Eat and Deliveroo should be held accountable, or the government should be held accountable? I mean, you've been inside now and seen how it all works. What would the most effective way of cracking down on this sort of thing be?
I think, so we can't... One of the problems from the last time was it's just trust the tech companies. The tech companies always respond in the same way, which is more technology. We'll do more facial recognition.
Right.
Okay, so what's going to happen if someone's got a fake driver's license and you're just using a phone to scan that?
Yeah.
Is that going to be effective? And if you they always will trust the technology, and and you've got to be who's monitoring it like that. And so it's for the government to take it to the tech companies. So what I say, personal opinion, is hit their bosses with really, really stiff penalties. Every time you find an illegal worker, go, okay, that's going to be the responsibility of your CEO, and you're going to face criminal charges. You would see this stuff go overnight. You would see like human check-in, and you say, you know, every fake ID, you're going to be held responsible for it. I mean, with a lot of these platforms, stuff like Deliveroo, Just Eat, the business model that they're built on is the supply of drivers. They need to have a lot of them, right? And so you go, okay, how do you get that many? And I spoke to a lot of guys up in the north of England that said there was an influx of illegal workers and their salaries went right down.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And America is trying to put a stop to it. And it's a really good point you make about almost the nature of that industry is exploitative in itself, because they want people for really, really cheap so that they can obviously make big margins and make a lot of money. So it's not almost not in their... sort of, it's not for them to say whether they want, like, illegal workers kind of help their system essentially.
I think that's the big thing at the bottom of this, and it's why when you go and it's why when you go on Facebook that you still see offers. You know, these groups have got 40,000 people in it. They're just openly discussing, oh, I've got a problem with Face ID, I need to get into my account. It's like there's a whole economy built around the UK's black market because it's so lucrative, and no one's just been bold enough to really tackle it because too many people benefit from it, because it boosts too many profit lines, right? To have all these super cheap illegal workers that are working for very, very low wages.
Totally, but it's kind of destroying the fabric of this nation, and it is putting British citizens second, and that's kind of half the issue too. I've got to go to break, but I'm going to keep you over the break because I want to talk more about what happened when you actually tracked down this insidious guy.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Gosh, I'm having an even more fascinating chat during the break. I wish you guys caught that, but I'll give you a bit of it now. Look, you contacted, obviously, this specific guy, Malik, you call him. I think that is his real name, though, as well. I mean, you're not giving him...
As far as we know.
Yeah, as far as we know. We're not going to give this, like, shyster any sort of protection. I mean, come on. He's advertising himself openly. What happened when you did get in contact with him, tried to meet him? And this is, again, after you've said multiple times, you know, I'm an illegal migrant, or your person that was doing a lot of the communicating in Urdu or Punjabi, I think it was doing a lot of the communication. What happened then? Because he got very freaked out, didn't he?
Yeah, well, what we sometimes do when we're doing these undercovers is that in order to make sure that when we want to deliver the right of the reply to the person, we normally use the kind of cover story that we've been running with to arrange a meeting, and then I will sort of like jump out and surprise them. When we did confront this Asim Malik, he didn't really have anywhere to go. And I think it's like you can see in the video on his face, it's sort of dawning on him that, oh yeah, they have got it. Like, and that's obviously what I've got to say to them. I'm like, look, you could, because they deny it and they say, oh, we didn't realise, oh, I didn't realise they didn't have the right to work. And it's like, no, we said it repeatedly. We've got the messages. Yes. And they don't have an answer for it. I mean, there was one guy that he didn't end up meeting us, and I ended up on the phone to him, and we were just going round and round because he kept saying, oh, I didn't realise, I was like, listen, we've got messages, we said it to you repeatedly. You could have at any point had your out and said, you're illegal.
He had many opportunities. Yeah. If you watch the video, you know, they basically gave it to him, you know, hello, I'm an illegal migrant. I'm an illegal migrant. It just shows how, first of all, there is no accountability. I mean, you're a journalist, not the law enforcement. So, you know, he obviously did not expect that any of this would happen to him, or that, to be honest, the law would even care. It did seem like he thought he'd just get away with this. But second of all, you know, there is an industry. I mean, how many more Asim Maliks in my mind I'm thinking would be operating? There'd be a lot of them.
So all that we've got are like the ones that are at the top of the iceberg. Yeah. Because beneath this, there will be a whole network that is linked into criminality and that will be tied into ways of getting around the system, little hackers set up. I mean, I've seen WhatsApp groups that fly around where you've got people in Brazil that are claiming to help out their mates in the UK that are blocked, and all these little things that go on under the surface that we can only get so far because of the legal parameters of an investigation that we have to follow. But
it shouldn't even be it shouldn't be on you, you know, to do this, but you have to.
Well, but the police or whoever could tackle it. The problem with these things, again, is like these big tech platforms. It's relying on the technology, and it's global. You know, it goes into tons of different places. It's messy, it's complicated, but if you had a crack at it, you should be able to make progress.
Well, no one seems to really care. I mean, I know they said that they've cracked down. I think that's because of pressure from people like you at the Express, people at the Sun as well. You were telling me that you were talking to a source today, and we talk about the tech companies and their culpability in this situation. I mean, they do seem to be turning a blind eye, and they make money off this exploitation. Is that something that you would probably say is true?
Well, I think, let's look, well, what my sources told me, very well connected in the whole delivery courier space. He said to me that he knows of people with dirty criminal records that have passed the background checks. Right. When I was first reporting this in the summer, I found, I think it was 3 or 4 cases where it was convicted sex offenders, paedophiles, that were working as delivery drivers. And
great to be coming right up to your door, and you know, if your kid's at home, maybe ordering a pizza or something because you know you're not home from work. That's lovely to know too. You know, there are real life repercussions.
Well, that was the thing of when I spoke to drivers, they were like, that's the thing that really scares us, because they say the number of times that I've gone to drop a delivery off and it's a child on their own opens the door. Yeah,
exactly. So I think when we start to let the illegal migrants, first of all, they're getting, then there's this whole other ruckus, which is why I could talk about it all night, because a lot of them are being put up in 4-star hotels here, and then we see a bunch of Deliveroo bikes out the front, and I'm thinking, okay, so we're paying for your accommodation, your 3 meals a day, and we're also allowing you to go and make a bunch of money off the British economy and then potentially send it back to wherever you are back at home, or take it for yourself. It's just not fair. It's just not fair on the British people.
Actually, you know where that money goes back? That money is going to go and fund more boats to come over, because a lot of the time,
correct,
they're paying off the debt. So every one of those delivery bikes and all the stuff that you were seeing brazenly, what that's doing is funding more boats, more attempts to cross over, because it's the way that the traffickers get their money back. Because a lot of the people, when you know, I've been out and done a lot of reporting in France, those people are penniless. So when they go to the trafficker, it's all on the basis of, you know, what they can do for them later.
Yeah,
and
you're
it's
right.
This type of work.
It's such a good point. And all these industries, you know, when you hear Keir Starmer say, I'm going to smash the gangs. No, you're not going to smash the gangs, because these are human trafficking gangs that operate in a syndicate around the world. You know, this isn't some, I just think that he envisions some guy on a beach, as I said, or, you know, some clean process, as you say, where someone just hands over a bunch of cash or does a direct bank transfer to a people smuggler. This is not the case. And you make a really good point. It is a very, very dark and murky and, quite frankly, really disgusting industry, and they're all connected. They are all connected, and yeah, with these people, you're right, they might be funding more to come across the channel. I think it's an absolute rort, and if we don't unpick and hold to account this sort of thing, then it's kind of like it's just a open thing where then everything starts to unravel, because I think even when you just see London streets or any streets in the main cities, it just doesn't feel safe. And I know that a lot of people have been using those I would say costumes or outfits as a sort of guise to then mug people, things like that. I'm not saying those two are connected, but I'm just saying the whole industry has become really kind of
it was always open for that. I mean, like Deliveroo, I know from sources that I've spoken to, there were restaurants that were set up, I don't know, it was just Deliveroo, but on food delivery apps, that if you ordered certain items, it was drugs that was coming to your house. You know, it's a network that can easily be abused. And who is it that's trusted to police it? The companies themselves.
Exactly. And if we don't crack down on it now, it's just going to spin out of control. And it's just hilarious because the government, the Labour government specifically, is so great at cracking down on so many other things, you know, such as taxing people to the hilt. If you tweet something wrong, maybe you'll get, you know, jailed for it these days. But this stuff is going on right under their noses, and they don't seem to be doing anything about it. That's Zach Garner-Perkis. He's an investigations editor at the Daily Express. Fantastic journalist. I highly recommend you check out his piece and also the video online because it's brilliant. And yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Are you working on anything special at the moment? Can you tell me anything at all?
Always working on something. We're going to have a new development in the grooming gangs story that we've been doing. We've been looking at London, but this is going to be a lot bigger, and it's going to go pretty far to the heart of power.
Friend of ours, John Wedger, I think you've been working with him as well.
To him before,
that man's a special man, special bloke. So anything to do with grooming, that's probably not who you're working with now, but anything to do with the grooming gangs is just horrific, but needs to be sanitized with sunlight. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. After the break, I'll be taking your calls. I've got a full switchboard. I don't know what to do. We're going to put some through. That after this break.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, it's Tarquin time. Tarquin in London. Tarquin, how are you?
Very well, darling, Samara.
Became American there for a second.
Where's my bromance partner Kev tonight then? Where's Kev?
Oh God, ask Kev, honestly. Yeah, where is Kev? It is his birthday. I don't know if he's the type who loves people saying it's his birthday, but it is his birthday. But strangely, that's not the reason that he's off. He is turning 95, though, so do wish him a good, very nice, happy birthday. Is that a good facelift?
Some of the best wishes when you see him. Well, I'll probably talk to him soon. But yeah, what it was something you had Andrea Jenkins earlier on.
The great dame,
You made a really good point about the reform, the fact that they've kind of dipped in the polls a little bit, and Andrea said that, well, these things happen, they kind of go up and down. That's true. But I think what I'm concerned about, tell me, guys, you think about this scenario. I think if the Reform Party starts to become the home for disaffected and potentially, as you said, Samara, unemployed Tories by 2029, I think people out there, the great British public, particularly Brexiteers, are going to think, we don't want to vote for Tory 2.0. We just don't want to do that. So we need to have a moratorium. They need to have a moratorium on, any former Tory that voted Brexit, and I think that has to be the ultimate criteria. We're going to have a moratorium of 2026-7, and if you haven't joined by then, you can't just jump off the ship at the last measure as the Tory Titanic crashes into the iceberg. You know what I mean? So we can't have, otherwise the polls will dip, and there is a government in waiting behind Nigel, and it's Advance UK, Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. They are popular, but they don't get talked about much, but they are there hovering over Nigel. So if they manage to do a number
I don't know if they're hovering over Nigel Tarquin, but you do make a good point. What scares me the most, and I'd be very interested to know Pete's thoughts about this, is actually more about the organisation behind the scenes, because the Tory party was run in a shambolic way. Even some people who have defected have told me that. And I do worry that, I think they can get behind Nigel's ideology. I think they can run themselves like that. But I don't want this turning into Kate Gate 2.0. You know what I mean? I don't want it turning into, Boris Johnson's 2021 era party. I think that it risks that, actually, when it does start to become Tory light. Do you agree?
I remember, if everybody remembers, a few months ago, I called Reform the trash can of failed Tories. And
all right.
But this is the point. It's been a long problem that Reform have got. Is there's a lot of people joining that look very opportunistic, and the base and a lot of voters don't like that. And I think you're right to bring up people like Advance UK, because there's splits within the base of Reform already, let alone throwing in, wet Tories and all the rest of it. You're just going to fracture it. And the biggest problem, this is why I brought up with Dame Andrea about getting people in line, is you've got a lot of very strong personalities who don't like being told what to do. And every now and then you need to be told what to do and how to vote from terms of being a professional political party. I think they're going to have a real problem here on that front. But it is all about the institutional support. I mean, let's be real, most Reform members aren't technically members next, because they're still like subscribers or something like that. Let's not forget that Nigel is the only leader of a political party that isn't elected. He's never actually gone in front of any members and said, can I be the leader? There's a huge institutional problem here, despite the fact that Zia Yusuf said, was it last year, he had the finest legal minds working on it, still yet to see anything. This is my point, is that if a general election is suddenly called, I think Reform might be in a lot of trouble here, because I don't think they've captured enough of the public's kind of attention, and that will just gift the Labour Party. They might take a beating, but I tell you now, the threat of a Starmer government 2.0 is very real, and it's not going away anytime soon.
I tell you what, Tarquin, I also fear that potentially there'll be an internal divide. You were an ex-Tory, and I've just been working at, the milk bar, and I've decided to enter into politics, which is a lot of the Reform base in a good way. That's more of the Reform base that I would support, is people with real-life experience that then join the party. I think that's one of its biggest
My
pulls.
thing has always been, you can't say you're going to be not the Uni Party, then welcome the Uni Party in through the front door. And not only that, but throw a fanfare with fireworks and make a big deal about it. I mean, when you're letting in certain ones, and I'll be polite and not name them, I'm starting to wonder. Let's not. But don't tease me like that. But when you're starting to let certain people through the front door and not others, people are going to start asking why. And I think that is the bigger problem when you start having moratoriums and individually choosing. Because, well, wait a minute, why did they qualify but they don't? Some is very obvious. Others, I think there's a lot of internal problems at Reform that we don't talk about.
Well, that's Tarquin. Any word to say to that?
Yeah, just my final word on that. for the limited time is I think that the optics on this are very, very important from the public perspective. What's that word? Perception. Is reality in this sort of game now, particularly in the social media age that we're in. And my concern is this: that reform will snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, and they could they could mess this up big time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been saying this for a long time. It's always been my thing. I don't hate reform. I just don't think they're ready for the challenge ahead at the moment.
Yes, exactly. Hear, hear. Good for you. Have a lovely evening, guys.
Oh, bye, Tarquin.
Bye, Tarquin.
Someone said, Samara, love the Seinfeld puffy shirt. Oh, thanks. I mean, if I didn't love Seinfeld so much, I'd not see that as a compliment, but actually I see it as a massive compliment. Someone said, hope Kevin is enjoying his birthday. I hope the card got there. That's from Margaret. Well, Kev, did you receive a card from Margaret? We'll hear about that tomorrow. They need arresting and prosecuting for treason. I think that's in reference to those illegal bikers who actually, Zach made a really good point, are probably making that money and sending it back to get more people across the channel or to pay off their craven people smuggler. And then someone else has said his apparent ideological fantastica. Just what does 1980s Czechoslovakian Secret Service files say about 18-year-old Keir Starmer? Well, that's about that very famous Daily Mail article that says that they did find some documentation that said that Keir Starmer worked on a workers' camp in Czechoslovakia. Yeah. Well, that doesn't bode very well. Yeah, it's interesting. But
we all get really worked up about things Farage said at school.
Correct, yes. You do really wonder. Mark says, my dearly departed grandfather used to say, you can catch a thief, but you can't catch a liar. The liar will twist things to fit his agenda. That's from Maria in Newbury. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, really good point, actually. It's a good point about the liars that are in government. After this, I can't trust a word of anything they say.
I never did.
Yeah, you never can. But when you get this concrete evidence where you've got recordings of her saying things when she knows that wasn't the case. 0344 499 1000 is the number. After the break, this is your favourite. It's David Lammy. He's been doing some terrible, terrible things to his office. That after this break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and and welcome to the Political Asylum with me, Samara Gill, for one night only. Kev will be back tomorrow, don't you worry, but it's his birthday today. Apparently that's not the reason he's off, but we might find out about that tomorrow if you do tune into the Political Asylum. Look, Georgina has been waiting. I've got to give her a fair hearing, and then we're going to get to Rafe Haydo-Manku, because David Lammy has been removing portraits in his office, and it is very scandalous. You don't want to know who he's enemies with now and whose picture he has removed, because quite frankly, I think if you think about him being the foreign secretary and you hear about whose portrait he removed, it makes your skin crawl. Georgina, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Samara. Hi, Pete. I don't think my skin could be crawling any more than it is at the moment, Samara, to be honest. I mean, it's just gone from bad to worse. There's no question that Rachel Reeves must resign. The OBR, in my opinion, gave an honest rendition of the financial dealings of the Labour Party, and they were, and they've been found out to have lied to us hand over fist. The spurious £22 billion black hole has been filled by the taxpayer once again, and has been spent on the ever-increasing cost of illegal migrants and the welfare bill. The Labour Party have lost all credibility, and the British public have no trust in them whatsoever. Rachel Reeves cannot keep pulling the woe is me, I'm a woman card every time she nails us to the wall. If she couldn't handle the job and the responsibility, she should never have been given that position. She wasn't qualified for that position anyway. There's no honour amongst thieves, Samara. And this is what we have an abundance of with the Labour Party. They will keep power driving our country into debt until we have nowhere else to go but the IMF. And only then, when they've put us at the point of no return, a general election will have to be called, because they'll have nowhere else to hide their insatiable lies. But this will leave our country in a nigh-on horrific mess. I'm absolutely terrified that a political party who are so ill-suited and unqualified for office are in charge of our country's safety and its finances. This has been equivalent to putting a loaded gun in the hands of a child. The right hand of the Labour Party doesn't know what the left hand's doing, and Keir Starmer doesn't seem to be able to make a viable decision on his own, as he fears reprisals from his Labour backbenchers. I've never known such a weak, lily-livered Prime Minister. He is an absolute embarrassment, and Rachel Reeves is neither use nor ornament. The only thing they are fabulous at is gaslighting and stealing from the British public, and they get away with it scot-free. The only ones that are paying the price for their mistakes are the ever-decreasing taxpayers.
Absolutely. Bravo. And those are the people that she gaslit with her little mini budget that wasn't even a thing and that was completely unprecedented, that she went and told everyone, plunged the economy into disarray, and then said, oh yeah, actually I knew that I was wrong. But now I'm right. It is political theatre at its finest, but in a terrible, terrible way, where there are actually real-life consequences, Rachel, if you didn't know. And yeah, you're right. A lot of the pocket pinching that she's been doing is to fund the 1 million migrants that have got... 1 million migrants are on benefits, yes. 1 million foreign nationals. But also, 1 million new people in general hopped on to benefits last year under the Labour government. So why can't she just be upfront with us? There are no policy reforms in that budget that I can see that really will make a difference to the national debt, which we're paying more and more and more into. Most of our taxes actually just goes off to paying national debt. I mean, Rachel's not upfront with us, and we can't go on. We can't go on like this.
No, we can't. But unfortunately, we're not living in a country. We're living in a kind of, like Fawlty Tower. It's a very badly run hotel more than anything. But because nobody is ever held accountable. I know I bang on about this point all the time, but it's so important, because those in charge just get to walk away. They just get to walk away. They're usually paid off. I'd say I use Tim Davie, Michael Stewart from Prevent. I think of Deborah Turnus. I think of so many people. Even Richard Hughes, again, did not do a good job of running the OBR. This is a lightning rod political institution now, and it shouldn't be like that. It's made mistakes in the past, and here we are. He just gets to resign and go, and gets to have his moment.
Questioned tomorrow.
Yes. So that will be the interesting thing when he goes in front of the Treasury Select Committee. Is does he stab back? This is the thing. He's been knifed pretty hard, but he's about to be given a platform in front of a very angry audience. So we're about to see whether he actually has any bite to him. But it'll be interesting to see how that blows up. But again, he shouldn't have been resigned. He should have been fired, because we have to raise standards. The only way we will ever turn this country around is by saying that those in office, those with power, actually are held accountable for when they do a bad job, because we can't afford this anymore, not just in terms of a country, but in financially. We can't afford it.
The issue is that the British people end up carrying the burden of all these mistakes.
All the time.
And, you know, yes, some highly paid, you know, chief exec is going to go and walk away from this dumpster fire that they've left. And maybe Rachel, which will be actually unprecedented, to release a budget and then resign.
Yeah.
That's even crazier.
See, I go
to be
back.
honest.
There was I can't remember his name now, but there was a Chancellor of the Exchequer who accidentally spoke to a journalist in the corridor in the Houses of Parliament, and he slipped one little bit of the budget. He resigned the next day.
Yeah.
One little bit, and he resigned. I think it was a Hugh. I can't remember who it was, but that was how standards were, that you didn't leak the budget. That is such an important thing, and now they're just using the public as a focus group. It's got to stop, because you're wrecking everything.
We're one of the biggest economies in the world, but we're being run like a tin pot.
I used Georgina's
organisation.
line that they were like child with a gun. Unfortunately, we voted to give them the gun. That is also a bigger problem.
Georgina, I'm still recovering from your call on Friday,
Yes.
which has since gone viral, so thank you for that. But my God, that was about Farage and the bodily fluids and the BBC. Georgina, thank you as always for your call. Let's go over to Rafe Haidel-Manku, one of my all-time favourite people, one of the smartest people that I know. My goodness, every time I talk to him, I feel like I am just that little bit smarter or listen to him. Rafe, I want to talk to you about someone who's not very smart, David Lammy. He pales in comparison. He's gone and basically removed a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II in favour of Pan-African flags. Now, this is egregious, in my opinion. It's really terrible stuff. These are really important things. Now, several months before the cabinet reshuffle, the deputy PM removed a picture of the ex-monarch. It was photographed by David Bailey from his office. So the photograph of the late Queen was then shipped out, and a pair of Pan-African flags were placed in the department's Whitehall headquarters. I mean, what is this scrubbing of our national pride, Rafe?
Well, you know, when David Mastermind Lammy was for a foreign secretary, I said many times that, you know, he needed to be reminded that the job of the foreign secretary is not to promote foreign interests, it's to promote British interests. You know, the clue is in the name. And I'm afraid this sorry tale just, you know, it just illustrates how unsuitable Lammy was for the job. This is a man who is seen by our enemies as an ally. This is a man, along with Keir Starmer and along with our Attorney General, Lord Hermer, these are people who our enemies see as ideological allies in the quest for, be it reparations or even be it the giving away of the Chagos Islands. They can see here that the Labour government prioritises far-left ideology over Britain's national interest. It's the ideology of post-colonialism, it's the ideology of decolonisation, it's the ideology of reparations. And, you know, this is not just a silly story about a painting. This really matters, because paintings hanging in the Foreign Office are supposed to project an image of Britain's soft power, and also how Britain wants the world to see it. And with the removal of Elizabeth II's portrait, there is now not a single picture in the entire Foreign Office collection of Her Late Majesty.
Correct.
And what does that say? The longest serving monarch in British history. I mean, you'll see pictures of Queen Victoria to this day, gracing many of our great departments of state, and not to have the Queen, the late Queen, who of course still carries so much awe about her, and there's an aura about her which still continues, and instead, what do you replace it with? A picture of the Battle of Waterloo, perhaps, or Trafalgar? No. Pan-African flags. And these paintings, of course, were commissioned by the Arts Council of England. There's another question in itself. Why is the Arts Council, our tax money, going to pay for things which have nothing to do with this country? We need to get rid of the Arts Council as well, I would say, which has been a cancer at the heart of the nation in terms of the woke movement and the sense of nihilism and self-loathing we have about our country. I just think it's all terribly depressing, but it just goes to show you that the people who now control our institutions are cuckoos in the nest. They are not they bear no comparison to the generations who once ran our grand institutions.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Britain has so much to be proud of. Of course, I'm Australian. I'm sort of like an appendage of Britain. We're part of the Commonwealth. But there is so much to be proud of. And you can see, as you said, just how ideologically captured, first of all these institutions that they fund are, but also the actual Foreign Office itself. You know, it shows that these are not Britain's interests that they're standing up for. This is some sort of weird version of Britain that they've confected in their mind about us being, as you said, a colonial state that has a lot to sort of apologise for, and that we must now remove everything that reminds us of what the old Britain was. I mean, I think the Queen is easily, and actually still beyond the grave, one of our most powerful assets when it comes to foreign diplomacy. And the fact that he would trash her legacy like that by removing her painting, and also in this article it does say that, you know, they don't really even know where that painting's been kept. They just basically flung it in a storage room, never to be seen again. Unless some other government comes in that maybe respects the Queen. And so you're right, when we start to strip away that sort of thing, we do start to see what this government really stands for, and what they will do. I mean, Lammy seems to have absolutely no shame when it comes to this sort of thing. He really was a terrible, terrible foreign secretary. I mean, Pete's just, Pete, I want to bring you in here because you're just looking at me like...
I've never rolled my eyes harder at the idea of him being a competent foreign secretary. It's just a laughable. But I just want to echo the point you've just made there, Samara. The Queen in her own right was a diplomatic superpower, probably one of the greatest soft power assets this country will ever have. Removing her portrait, removing the symbol of the Queen, shifts things in a very dramatic way. I'm not one of these people that, you know, bows down to portraits, but the symbol of the Queen, what the Queen represented, is the very best of Britain. And I do think that removing her was not an accident. It was done deliberately because they don't like old Britain. They don't like the traditions of this country. And that's a real heart of it as to why they're very ideologically driven. But again, I mean, the Queen didn't broker deals herself, but she made them possible. She was a great she eased the room. She knew how to play people. She knew the role that she was in, and she put duty above everything. And let's be real, David Lammy couldn't even spell the word duty if his life depended on it.
Rafe, what do you have to say to that?
Absolutely. This is very important. You know, I would say that the Queen, you know, firstly, let's remember, Britain is the world's second most powerful soft power nation. This has always been shown in the rankings. And, you know, just think about it. Churchill was always one of the great icons. You know, for example, there's still a bust of Churchill in the Oval Office.
Yes.
George W. Bush put it there, and it was put there also by Trump and so forth. The Queen stands alongside Churchill today, I would say, as one of those iconic images of Britain. And removing that picture, and we now, of course, we know that there are other commissions now in the Foreign Office, including one called Old Boat New Weather, which is all about slavery and imperial trade and, you know, and the wrongs of colonialism. What's being done is we're having our past expunged and rewritten. And there are new myths being created to replace the old myths. So the old myths were, you know, Nelson, Wellington, Churchill. They've all been denigrated, I would say quite deliberately.
Yes.
There have been aspersions cast upon them. And the best way you can change a society is by severing the links that connect people to their past. And once you have denied people their past, once you've denigrated and derided their history, there's nothing proud to be about being British. Nothing that we've achieved was done with good intentions or with genius. It's all got some evil source to it. Then you can replace it with new ideologies. And that's what we see now. We see that with this idea that diversity built Britain, and Britain has always been multicultural. These are the new myths to replace the old myths. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing an attempt to, in a sense, create a new Britain completely separate from the traditional Britain we all know and love.
It's the same, it's the same we see with the Union Jack. It's why they really have to go after the Union Jack and the Union flag, is because it is the symbol of what it represents. It is a way of binding people together. And Ray's perfectly right. It's about severing those connections. It's about dividing us. It's about literally pulling us so far apart from each other that there is nothing to kind of connect us all. And then you've got to break those, and then you get to do whatever you like with the country. And it is terrifying that we're allowing it to happen, and we're seeing it so brazenly done.
I mean, yeah.
Make no mistake. Make no mistake. This is precisely anybody who lived behind the Iron Curtain. My own mother's family are Polish, or who lived in communist China. will know that this is all eerily and scarily familiar.
It's the playbook, isn't it?
The tearing down of statues, the deriding of your heroes, the renaming of streets and of parks and so forth. This is right out of the communist playbook. That's why I say, this term woke or progressive politics people use is far too soft and cotton wool. I call this American Marxism, which we have imported into this nation.
Totally. And you know what? When you talk about the Iron Curtain and China and Russia, that obviously they always say, oh, they're coming for us. China and Russia are coming for us. No, I actually think there's no threat of invasion in that way. I think this country is destroying itself from within. And they're actually laughing at us, a lot of them. I mean, I lived in Russia, and I actually do find that they think that wokeism is destroying the West, and they kind of are wiping their hands of it because they don't think they've got anything to do with it. And they're like, well, we don't have to do anything now. They're eating themselves with culture
Never
wars
disturb
while
your
our
enemy.
kids are doing maths, 10 hours a day or whatever. I'm just obviously exaggerating there. But, Lammy has said, the Britain must confront the twisted ties of the empire that justified mass enslavement and colonial domination. I mean, if that isn't self-hatred, I don't know what is. Australia's got a lot of that too, and it's destroying us because it's built now within the curriculum. So you've got little white girls and white boys, or just in general
I was going to say,
Australians.
considering the fact that he's now the Deputy Prime Minister, I think it means that we rather confronted it pretty well, don't you think? That we've rather, rather dealt with the problems of the
that's what I
past.
mean,
The fact that he's in that position.
Yes,
I mean,
he's
self-awareness and the Labour Party very rarely go together, but this is a startling one, even for him.
You make a good point. He's the second most powerful person in the land, but apparently, colonialism still got on his back. I think it's quite interesting, though. Keir's a big fan of this. Obviously, Keir removed portraits of Elizabeth I, Sir Walter Raleigh, and yes, he did. Raleigh, sorry, and he did take down a £100,000 portrait of Margaret Thatcher from her former study because he found it unsettling. I mean, come on. This is madness. This, as you said, is textbook almost communist socialism, where you're trying to erase things of the past and trying to build this weird new fandangled future that is very, very strange. Rafe, honestly, where do we go from here? Do you think that this will just get worse and worse? Or, I mean, I do see a couple of Union Jacks behind them during their press releases now. Do you think they're coming to terms with what it is to be British, or is this just all a prop for them?
Well, what we've experienced over the last quarter of a century is a top-down revolution. So I keep trying to explain to Britain that Britain is now a post-revolutionary society. The revolution has happened. The institutions look the same, but the people who run them are completely different. It's being captured. And that's been a top-down revolution. But when you see things like the Raise the Colours campaign, when you see now the rise of reform, this is the rebellion. This is the counter-revolution that we are now seeing. And it's a bottom-up revolution. This was a grassroots movement to try to stand up. And so when you see those flags being flown on lampposts and so forth, this is not done as a sign of aggression. This is the British and the English people saying, we have been neglected for too long. There is no one to stand up for us. We can see our history, our past, our pride, our identity being eroded. If no one is going to stand up for us, we will stand up for ourselves. And that's what we're seeing now. And of course, despite the fact that the traditional patriotic British people are the majority in this country, for too long the means of communication have been controlled by the legacy media, who are part of this progressive movement. And so we're having these discussions not on the BBC, not on the ITV, but in on YouTube and on great channels like Talk. This is where the counter-revolutionaries are gathering to try to get momentum.
Well, it's the working class that have been put on the front lines of most of the problems in this country, especially things like the migrant crisis, when I'm having to constantly venture into communities where, no, they didn't put the migrants up in Hampstead or Islington. No, they put them in Hillingdon.
Yeah.
They put them in Wethersfield because they think that they won't complain. But you're right, there is a revolution brewing, and history does repeat itself. So let's see what happens. I think you're completely right there. That's Rafe Haydel-Mankoo. He's a historian. You can catch him on Plank of the Week. You can also catch Pete on Plank of the Week as well this Friday, 7 p.m. So if you like that conversation and want a bit more of that, I'm sure they'll spice spice it up a little bit in studio there. But such an interesting thing, you know. You just think, oh, it's a funny little story. But when I read it this morning, no, it's erasure of our history.
Because that's the thing. It's a little story here, it's a little story there, and then suddenly you realise it actually a big change has happened around you. And Rafe's perfectly right. This has been a very top-down one, and people have gone, why are you getting so worked up over the naming of a street or something? Because it's not just one incident now. We have a huge movement, and he's right. We are kind of post-revolutionary in that way, but the way that we're going to have to turn this ship around is going to be a mammoth task. You have no idea, because every institution is going to fight back. This is the thing, you know, just because we've got, you might have the Prime Minister you want, it doesn't mean that all the other bits of the state are going to do as they're told, as we see with the NHS as a prime example.
I don't know, the Brits know how to fight back, I can tell you that
I go back to the Churchill quote. He said, they might be asleep, but they're still lions at the end of the day. And I kind of live by that as a kind of hope for the nation.
You'd be chucked out of number 10 right now for saying that. That'd be too triggering
I'm surprised
for them,
they'd be at the door when I leave.
Yeah, they would. Well, after the break, we're going to talk more about flags. A Scarborough businessman has been slapped with a massive fine. I'll give you the details with him after this break.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, Lucy says, shame on Lammy. Removing the Queen's portrait from the office he currently inhabits is a disgusting insult to the people of this nation. We loved her memory. The office does not belong to him. It belongs to the people of Great Britain. We do not buy this miserable communist ideology. I agree with you. I tell you what, and I agree with Rafe too, it reeks of communism, this sort of thing. It's like scrubbing. She was the nation's grandmother, and sorry, but Britain has not been the same since she died. It genuinely hasn't. I can pinpoint that as one of the points where it all went downhill. So we miss you, Queenie, and nation's grandmother. But Lammy doesn't seem to care.
No, he doesn't.
Apparently, probably triggers him to see that woman's face. So let's talk now to Will Haylett. He's the owner of Squeaky Clean in Scarborough. In my opinion, he's a national hero and a patriot. Will, welcome to the show.
Hiya.
So, you've been fined £2,300 for putting up a Union Jack.
Yeah,
What? Can you talk me through how that happened? Because this is ludicrous.
Yeah, so, for a couple of years, like I said, when, God bless the Queen Mother. Anyway, so, like I said, everyone's been down and depressed in our seaside town. We love to bits, all of us. It's a nice community. Then, I've seen a few flags go up here and up there. I thought, I've got a cherry picker. I'll put them, I'll put a couple on lampposts and whatnot. And from there, councils turn around.
That's very controversial, Will. Very, very controversial stuff, isn't it? I mean, this is quite ridiculous. So basically, you erected the flags in order to bring your community together, foster a sense of national pride, but you're being fined thousands of pounds for raising these flags. Now, all you did was try and put them up. I've been to a couple of communities where they are really, really penalised. You're getting basically charged £36 per flag that you put up. Are you in a fight with the council about this? Because I don't think you should pay this. I mean, I'm not advocating for anyone to avoid paying any fines, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, what was it? Majority of Scarborough are behind me, and they think it's an absolute joke. What it is, I want to know what lamppost my flag was on. I want to receive my evidence, what flag I put up. I want to know what lamppost it was on around town. Because, like I said, a few of my flags blew away anyway, so I don't know why I'm getting fined, because they want my flags in the first place. So, but I'm getting blamed for a lot, but it is what it is.
Well, you made a really good point, actually, in another interview you did, where you basically said, in America, everyone's sort of free to fly their flag proudly all across the country, all across the world, but here national pride is being erased and our identity. I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. There seems to be no other country where the flag is a symbol of something horrible, let alone Britain, who has achieved so much. I mean, it's one of the countries where you would think that people would be proudest of being a part of, but it seems like all we have is self-hatred. Where do you think this sort of hatred does come from? Are you seeing any of it within your community, or is it very much the people at the top fiddling with your national pride?
Well, it is. I don't. What I've come across is there's too many reasons why our flag is a symbol of not nice, and I'm thinking why? We're British. Why not fly a flag on our lamppost? And be proud and bring communities together and stuff like that. It's just so sad, and Yeah,
it is sad, It really is. I think it's also such a double standard, because Tower Hamlets was very happy to fly the Pakistani flag on their National Day. Of course, all the lovely protests that we even saw over the weekend, even though there seems to be some form of peace in the Middle East, they're very happy to fly the Palestinian flag. No one's getting fined for that. I've genuinely never heard a story of anyone being fined ever for flying the Palestinian flag. So you can see that it only happens when it's the Union Jack or the English flag.
Yeah, it's an absolute disgrace, and it's as simple as that. All it is, there's Labour in power who's failed us. Yeah. Now we've got Conservatives in Yorkshire, covering us. They're not. Why are they covering? Why are they looking? Why are they? What is it? Why are they finding me? Over my flag. It seems like they've just turned against us all, and we haven't got no one to speak to. you know, about these problems, or we haven't got a voice, you know. So this is the voice of me and of many others, you know, in the Yorkshire and Scarborough area.
When people are upset and disgruntled with the system, a lot of people, we know history can tell us that, find different ways to express themselves that are not peacefully flying flags, let's just say. Yeah. And I think it's really, really egregious that you are getting penalised so heavily for doing something that is very peaceful. You're not hurting anyone. You're not disrupting any peace. All you're doing is showing a bit of national pride and trying to get the community spirits up. Yeah. And I don't think you should be penalised for that at all. Will you be paying the fine, Will? Will you be paying $2,300? Because that's a lot of money.
Well, what I'll have to do is just wait for reply of MP Batsby. Yeah, so we'll see. I'll keep you updated anyway.
We'll keep fighting the good fight. We're on your side here, Will. That's genuinely, that is Will Haylett. He's the owner of Squeaky Clean in Scarborough. It's just a guy trying to make sure the community's all right.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, what has it come to?
Yeah, the interesting thing, though, is Scarborough Council is actually run by Reform. 11 out of 15 seats is actually run. It was the first council that they won. So this is interesting, actually, from a political point from there. But what I will say is the only people that keep the flag political is the left, because they need it to be. Yeah. They need it to be controversial. They need it to have this negative atmosphere around it so that they can weaponise it against people for, like... you know, like Will there, that wants to fly it out of pride. And I tell you now, you start messing with British pride, good luck. Because, like I say, this country doesn't, you know, we don't get up in arms about a lot of things. But this one is not going away. And I have to admit, I think the left have to be very careful that they about controlling this one, because my fear is when people aren't listening to a community, they start wandering off to other people who will listen, who have more nefarious kind of intentions than good political nice democratic ones.
Right.
That's
when they're not getting heard, when they're flying their flag peacefully, then you start to go down some dark paths. So I think that what they're doing is completely antithetical. I do just want to say that North Yorkshire Council has said we are proud to support big national and regional occasions by flying the St George's or the Union flag. However, we are aware that some of the residents across North Yorkshire are feeling uncomfortable with the number of flags as well as graffiti. I don't really equate graffiti and flags in the same way, but that's what they've said. After the break, oh my goodness. Okay, so basically a police officer a prison officer has been playing a video game with a lag in its cell, and the colleague has stood behind watching. I'm going to talk to someone who's been on the inside after the break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, this is really interesting. This is an insight. You know, we hear about Axel Rudikabana having his pot noodles and trying to throw them on people, and horrible criminals getting away with anything. I think that was a 777 bomber who was doing that, but also Axel Rudikabana saying, "I want Maltesers, I want crisps, I want this specific food." You know, we hear about people living the life of Riley in these prisons in the UK. Well, this is a new one. The moment the prison officer is filmed playing football, computer game, so FIFA, with a criminal in his cell as Justice Chiefs investigate who put the footage online. So essentially, I'm not sure if we've got the footage here, but basically a prison officer was playing a computer game with a criminal. I mean, you know, we hear stories on the opposite side where criminals and prison officers don't get along at all, and there are stabbings going on, there are attempted murders. But this is a whole other level. They're sort of buddies and pals. Well, I've got David Shipley in here, one of my favourite people. He's a former prisoner. He can tell us all about how abnormal this is. Did you ever play FIFA with your prison guard?
I did actually play video games.
You did?
I did, yes. So when I was in prison in 2020, I mean, mostly we were locked in our cells because it was COVID. But we did have an Xbox, and there were times when I'd play a bit of FIFA. I was very bad. I'm terrible at FIFA. I'm a rugby man, so I was terrible at FIFA. But I did play FIFA with my cellmate and with prison officers.
You played it with your prison officer, and that was fine. That no one filmed it. No one tried to expose you. This was a normal practice thing in the prison.
I think it is a normal practice. I think the issue in this story is that someone secretly filmed it, and the real thing we should focus on is someone has a mobile phone they shouldn't have, and that is a problem because people shouldn't have smartphones in prison. But in my time in Wandsworth, for example, like, you know, it was generally a fairly stable wing I was on, but there were occasionally dangerous people who came in who were really problematic, and because I and other prisoners had good relationships with some staff, when there was a difficult prisoner, we would have a word with them, and that prisoner would be taken away. There was a time when a guy came to my cell and threatened me, said he was going to attack me and kill me, and I had to square up to him. And afterwards, I went to spoke to other mates on the wing, and they said, "Oh, he shoved a guy over in the yard, an old man. He's been threatening other people." So we went and spoke to officers that we trusted quietly, and they moved him off another wing. And those kind of interactions, which actually stop violence, only happen if you trust officers. So in that situation, yes, like that was an officer who had come into my cell and hung out with me, who had talked to me about the books I was reading, who'd maybe like watched some TV with me, who had built a healthy, very boundary relationship. And that actually is okay, I think.
I mean, I can agree with you on that, but I can also think that why should we be thinking about, you know, fostering good relationships between prison guards and prisoners when it doesn't seem to be, you know, yes, I think people who are in there for lesser offences, I think that's totally fine. But I also don't really appreciate, you know, terrorists, mass murderers getting an easy run and cozying up to these prison guards. I mean, we've even had instances of, you know, more further on relationships, let's just say, between prison guards and prisoners. Is that something you witnessed when you were on the inside?
Sure. So I think sexual relationships between prison officers and prisoners are absolutely wrong. And I think the issue here is comparing those to a prison officer building rapport with prisoners is very incorrect. So prison should be a place which stops the public being at risk, and it also needs to be a place that makes people less likely to commit crime. Of course, mass murderers like Axel Rudikabana, you know, or appalling terrorists should not be allowed access to these things. No one thinks that. But the vast majority of prisoners are in for a relatively short amount of time and will be released one day. So the job of the prison has to be giving them the best opportunity to be less likely to commit crime afterwards. That protects everyone. So in an ideal world, they would be out every day, you know, working, studying, doing something in the prison. Instead, we lock them in spaces that are really small for often 22 hours a day. And in that situation, if you were locked in a tiny room 22 hours a day...
But these are criminals, David.
No, they are. But what do we want to happen after they're released? Do we want them to commit more crime? Do we want them to be more addicted to drugs? Or do we want them to have developed skills such that they can go and live a decent life? So unless we're going to lock them up forever, we've got to do something sensible with them. If we put people in tiny cells all day, essentially their options to pass that time are get depressed, self-harm, start attacking other people, take drugs, drink, and an alternative to that is watch some TV or play a video game. In comparison, that's relatively sensible. I would prefer that we get every prisoner out of their cell every day studying or working or training so that they are doing something productive every day, and then when they're released they can go and get a job and pay taxes. That's what we should all
That's
want.
definitely more the Nordic type of way, and it has been, well, it has kind of been quite successful actually in terms of you're squinting there. Is it not? I mean, I've seen some very lax Norwegian prisons and things like that where, yeah, they don't have a very high reoffending rate because they do actually allow these people to foster good relationships with communities, etc. And then when they get out, they don't go and reoffend. So I agree with you. There's definitely statistics to back up that getting people out there and not suppressing their freedoms is a better thing. But, you know, there's also the American model, which is quite hardcore, let's just say, or at least from what we see over here in the media. Would you want the UK to go down that line? I mean, the Shadow Justice Secretary says the prison is not a holiday camp. And essentially that another prisoner said that essentially they were living a very luxurious life while behind bars.
I mean,
did you live a very luxurious life behind bars?
No, prison isn't luxurious. You know, imagine being in a space half the size of this studio where you and I have to sleep, eat, go to the bathroom, brush our teeth, and that's where we are for 20
Sounds like a
hours
London flat, to be honest.
I mean, essentially, yes.
I agree with you, I think.
But to answer the question, like, what should we do? We shouldn't do what the Americans do or what the Norwegians do. We should do what the British Army does.
Okay.
So the British Army, if you are in the army and you commit an offence, you go to a place called Colchester, MCTC Colchester.
Yeah.
And Colchester has a 9% reoffending rate. And what they do is every day, every prisoner there gets a bespoke personal set of programs they have to do because they work out, why are you here? What's gone wrong? Like, is it addiction? Is it, you know, drugs, gambling, violence issues? And they get them doing stuff every day. So every day they do PT, they have to work out, they have to do things, they have to study, they have to train, they have to work.
Right.
And that actually solves reoffending far more than anything else we do or in our normal prisons or anything else that the Norwegians do or the Americans do. So we know that works. And I think that's what we do as a prison system. It's a prison system that actually makes prisoners work and improve themselves during their sentence, not sit in a cell losing their minds.
Or playing FIFA, maybe.
Or playing
I mean,
FIFA.
you know, the government sources have basically defended the Guard and said that playing video games helps build relationships, as you said. The Ministry of Justice said, we've removed those posts immediately and we are investigating. Those who break prison rules will be punished and can face extra time behind bars. Well, there you go. Maybe our whole prison system needs reform. Maybe they really do. That's David Shipley. He's a former prisoner and he's got some really good ideas on maybe how we could have less people on the inside and have more recuperated individuals on the outside. Thank you so much for joining us. After the break, we're going to be talking about someone who really should be in prison. A migrant suspected of a bomb attack which killed 269 people wins an appeal against the UK. And no, I'm not talking about my next guest, Stephen Barrett, who's patiently waiting. That after this break.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh my gosh, one of my favourite people, Stephen Barrett, the barrister, who, if I was in a world of trouble and they were going to put me behind bars, I would want this man defending me
on the speed
because
dial.
I know he would be able to get me out of whatever crazy stuff I have found myself embroiled in, which, knowing me, would absolutely be the case. Stephen Barrett, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. You're both far too kind.
Well, I just got whipped by my producer, Stephen, and it is the truth. Look, this migrant arrested for a bomb attack. I don't laugh. I laugh in sort of the ludicrous nature of this. The man was detained in connection in 2019 to the Easter Sunday bombings. He was a Sri Lankan national. He faced arrest on suspicion of being part of a bomb attack. He has won an appeal over his asylum in the UK. I mean, time and time again we get these stories, but this is one of the craziest I've ever seen. Stephen, how the hell does this keep happening?
Well, it's worse, actually, when you dig into this story. So there is another perverse decision doing the rounds, because it's ridiculous, about how a guy can't be deported to Pakistan because he did really well in school.
Yes.
And these perverse decisions will keep happening and keep happening. But the reason this is worse is that this goes to the heart of the matter. This is the system of what is going on. Because what this is, just so your listeners and viewers know, this is an appeal. So there was a first judge, there was a judge before this judge, and the judge before this judge had some basic common sense and decided that a guy who blows up 297 people in a church is not somebody we want here. Which I really just do think is described as basic common sense. I don't even think it's law in particular. It's certainly not complicated in any way. It doesn't make my brain work. It's just, that's just so obvious. I really think it should be dealt with. And what has happened, look at the system and how the system works. So one judge, one asylum judge actually had common sense. Most of them don't. Most of them do really stupid things and come out with really stupid judgments. But the one who had common sense, they've just been embarrassed in front of their colleagues. They've been told by a senior judge that they're wrong. They've been slapped on the wrist. They have been effectively just humiliated. That's how it works, by the way. Lawyers are desperately hierarchical. American lawyers always find English lawyers in particular particularly confusing, because American lawyers are often money motivated. And English lawyers, and I'm not trying to make English lawyers sound noble, English lawyers are very status motivated.
No, it's a great point.
To be mocked by a senior judge, to be told that you are wrong, and to have your judgment referred not back to you, but back to another judge because you can't do the job properly, that's ritual humiliation to this poor judge for the crime of having common sense. That's what this judge did wrong. Because none of us think that a guy who blows up 297 people in a church should be in the country. I mean, that is just obvious, except for this bizarre cult which has come and claimed my judiciary. It has taken over it. I think it's about time we recognise this is not the senior levels of the judiciary, so we can still rescue from the top down. But it was very interesting.
Oh, really?
Hearing...
So there is hope.
There is hope. The president of, if anybody ever doubts our judges, just look to the president of the Supreme Court and have hope. Lord Reed is hope.
And you love Goose as well, right?
We do. We love Mr. Justice Goose.
Yeah.
And it's about time we started praising all the good judges. But we don't have long before the cult has, because it's something in my area of law we call the effluxion of time. But, frankly, they're just going to retire. But
then to be replaced by maybe more woke.
By cultists. They will be replaced by cultists. Yeah. So we don't have much. We don't have long to fix the system of judicial appointments. We don't have long to fix our country. I really think that it's about time that we do. But your last speaker spoke about how if we want to improve prisons, we should copy the military, copy the army, and that's a really interesting idea because I actually think if we want to improve immigration, we should just have sergeant majors making the decision. I mean, one of the great things about the war was that a lot of it was a great leveler because rich and poor both fought in the war. In fact, rich people tended to disproportionately die in both world wars.
Wow, I didn't know that.
But the Second World War was great because a load of barristers or people who would become barristers went off and fought in it and got to learn the common sense of sergeant majors because they were with them all the time and the ordinary person. And that really started the golden age of law's revival in the 50s and the 60s, which then led to the golden age of judges in the 70s and the 80s. And you can see that this is just a generation moving through the system. And really, if we want to restore law and judges, I'd get a lot more sergeant majors involved. I think we should be exposed to them. There is a lot of wisdom in the army and in the realities of life. Once you are, I mean, it's so ironic, Samara, because I talk to you closeted away from my oak-lined library. But, once you are closeted away in a very intellectual world.
Self-aware king.
Yeah. I've got the Spoons app on my phone and I go out into the real world.
All right. The Spoons app, the great equalizer.
Yeah. Well, I think so. But I would really seriously urge us to look at this because instead what we've got is a generation of judges coming up now who are woke indoctrinated, who've been woke indoctrinated for 20 years, and they're just going to move through our system and they're just not good. And what have they done? They just disciplined the one employment judge who had, immigration judge who has common sense. That's what they've done. That's what this is. It's worse than it looks. It's not just a perverse decision. We get those every day. This is the guy who makes a good decision being disciplined. Or it might be a woman. I don't care.
You make a really, really good point. It's quite interesting. It's happened in politics. It's happened, within the civil service, and also obviously within private companies where there is a lot of wokery at the very top. I mean, I come from a family of 17 lawyers and barristers, so I'm fully aware of some of the nonsense that they spew. And you're right, a lot of them are not in touch with the real world. And the issue is that the decisions that they make are very much real world decisions. Of course, I think about Lord Justice Bean, who said that the rights of the asylum seekers trump the rights of the British people. I think of Lord Justice Holyrood, who is the one who sentenced Lucy Connolly. These are people who don't exist in the real world, but then have massive effects within it. And all the judges who made different decisions on appeals for asylum seekers who have then gone and raped young girls, etc. We have got a stack of cases where that has happened. I'm not just trying to spread anything. Of course, not all asylum seekers are rapists, but some of the appeals have been absolutely egregious. And so, yes, you're right. I would absolutely encourage more people with real-world experience to be making some of these decisions because, when you're in your cushy Islington flat with your guardian and your nice pair of slippers, you just don't touch what happens on the streets. I mean, Pete, would you agree with that?
Oh, I couldn't agree more, and I'm sure Stephen will agree with me. It's why I find the idea that David Lammy wanted to get rid of juries one of the most terrifying prospects I've ever heard, because the standard of the judges that will be in those positions taking those decisions is just so low. And it's one of the reasons that we bang on about making sure that woke is out of universities. It's because these people people learn it at a uni and then they take it into the real world. We're living in the consequences of people laughing off the people with the blue hair and the straight line fringes about 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, because they're now in those positions. This is why we've seen such a radical change in our society. It's why it's in our politics, it's in our law, it's in the corporate world, it's in education. We're seeing it happen and we're allowing it to carry on happening. That's the bit I find most concerning, is we see the problem and nobody is stepping in to do anything about it. But it's about tackling the system. It is a system now, and it is so ingrained into it that my fear is it's going to take at least 2 generations worth to yank it out.
God,
it is
please.
absolutely terrifying just how it's not like America where we could have, like, you know, the president signs an executive order and he stops DEI. The people in our institutions are the problem and they're running the show now.
Okay, so Shabana Mahmood, who I'm really not a fan of, she has said that they essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but asylum seekers can just have one appeal now, right?
And
is that even going to work, knowing who we're dealing with here?
No, because those judges, so this is the one judge who had common sense, who's now been humiliated in front of all of the other judges who have common sense.
Yes.
This appeal judge didn't bother overturning it and saying the guy could stay. What the appeal judge said is that I'm going to send it to another judge, and passive aggressively, it's obvious what outcome is now expected. So these single route of appeal judges will have exactly the same pressure put on them. I would sack the lot and replace them with sergeant majors and see what type of common sense decisions we start to get if you actually want to do something about immigration. But Shabana Mahmood, just her solution to immigration is to grant them all citizenship, and that is simply the cunning plan of a loon. I mean, I for balance, I deeply respect Lord Maurice Glassman, who is in Blue Labour. I have the highest intellectual respect for him.
Right.
If he actually ran Labour, I might consider joining them. But and he thinks very highly of Shabana, but I have not seen anything in Shabana's actual plans or anything she does that will work. It looks again like smoke and mirrors, and frankly, this lying which now exists at the heart of government. We have to admit that the Chancellor lied.
I got to say, I echo that.
That's a whole other. I wish we didn't have 2 minutes left because I could get into that.
I got to say, just the one thing really quickly is actually, I look at what Shabana did with the sentencing committee, the sentencing council. She had an opportunity to reform it, to say no, and we had to wait, and you know, we had talks of emergency legislation. I also look at the fact that she wanted to increase legal aid to asylum seekers as well. I look at actions, I don't necessarily look at words, and she's a lot. I think she's a bigger problem than most people are predicting. I'm afraid. Not to ruin everybody's Monday.
I think that's very wise. I think we have to look at actions, not words. I mean, a guy who just sexually abused a child got 3.5 years, of which he'll serve much, much less than even 3.5 years. I mean, look, I don't mind admitting that I grew up working class, so my first temptation is to throw him in the wood chipper. And okay, if I have to be more civilised than that, I'll have to say I want a more serious sentence, but I damn well want a more serious sentence.
It'll be a very nice wood chipper.
Stephen, I wish you were running more and more things. Maybe you will be in the future, I'm sure, with that level of common sense. That's Stephen Barrett. He's a barrister, and he'll be back here tomorrow, actually, doing 1 hour with Kev, 7 to 8, so make sure to catch him then. For now, though, my goodness, we've got a lot of calls, so we're going to take them after these messages. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call, or give me a text on 87222. Be there.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the final hour of the Political Asylum. I like to, just like Kev, keep this open to you guys. I think we need to have a bit of a town square discussion about the show. What did you like? What did you dislike? What do you want to talk about? I don't believe in questions. Just talk about absolutely anything. Call me. This is the home of free speech and common sense. So get your calls in because I want to hear from you. Oscar from Rugby says, hello, great show as always. What about the lamppost on the latest Coronation Day? Full with flags all around the place. Yeah, you're right. It seems to be within a very controlled environment. Yeah. You can have the flag freely flying.
Well, they still kicked off a fuss, didn't they?
Yeah,
Somebody said it was like they thought it was like Nazi Germany or something like that. I would remind you, just walk around Brussels or any European capital city. You can't move for the EU flag. I mean, it's rather ridiculous just how worked up about one thing they get and not the other. But then we're asking for consistency from liars, so there you go.
Well, Clayton in Kent says, Samara, the excellent Georgina got one thing wrong. She said the government. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in regards to the government. She should have said that the left doesn't know what the extreme left hand is doing. Very funny. I like that. And someone said, Anonymous has said, Labour won't go to the IMF. They'll mortgage us to China. Oh, my God. Well, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's not. Well, if you think about it, just before, I think it was just after the last budget, she ran away to China because there was no foreign investment. So, it's you know what, I think Ed Miliband's been quite a few times, David Lammy. We used to keep saying that I would rather hope they kept him, but never mind. Yeah, it's our relationship and China, the Labour Party, is very interesting, and it isn't talked about enough, actually, I have to admit. But it's interesting to see, obviously, right here, we'll have the super embassy. That's still up in the air. Yeah, I was going to say, it's not a bad prediction, I have to admit.
I mean,
which is
everyone's
terrifying.
screaming and wailing about the COVID inquiry and all the findings. I just wonder why we're still giving China exactly what they want after what hell they put us through.
I always agree with Rafe, who was on earlier, that actually the world should have got together and had a global tax against China.
Yes. Yep. Well,
I think that would have been actually quite a good idea.
Even when there's been a little scurry of investigation into China, it's been shut down for some reason.
Oh, I wonder why.
I just wonder why. But we're allowed to, spend 150k upwards a day to investigate what happened in our country. I think it was a little bit beyond our borders. But anyway, let's go to Simon in Sevenoaks. Oh, this is interesting. I actually really wanted to discuss this. It's about Tulip Sadiq. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Good evening, Samara. Absolute pleasure to speak to you, and hello to Pete.
Hello.
Hello, hello. What did you want to say? Because this Tulip Sadiq stuff is scandalous.
Firstly, can I just say it's an absolute honour to follow Stephen Barrister, because I am a paid subscriber to his Substack community, which is a fabulous place, and I interact with Stephen online weekly.
He's a legend, and he's always got the facts to back up what he's saying.
Yeah, just subscribe to Stephen Barrett's Substack. He's a fabulous advocate for free speech and our constitution.
Are you taking a commission, Simon? What's going on?
He's a great friend. I actually met my Polish girlfriend through his Substack community.
Oh my God! Wow, so it's not just a Substack; it's also an online dating site.
Not quite, but
so Stephen Barrett's Substack is the new Tinder. Is that what we're saying?
I refuse to comment. I take the fear.
No, but I tell you what,
Stephen has taught you well.
I like the idea of a sort of place where you can meet people of the same ideological kind of persuasion and you can discuss it.
It's a fabulous place. It's a fabulous place. Check him out on Substack.
All right. Simon, settle down. Settle down. We're on talk right now.
Right.
So what did you want to say about Tulip Sadiq?
Well, the thing is, if you take all the circumstances into account and you extrapolate, a 2-year custodial sentence from the Bangladeshi government. Now, is this going to trigger a recall petition and a subsequent by-election in a Labour heartland where my Polish fiancée lives in the next door constituency, and she says you can put a red rosette on a dog and it will get elected.
Well, anything would be sort of better than Tulip Sadiq at this point. I mean,
this isn't my point. My point is that you've got a weak Prime Minister who is on the back foot. You have two prime candidates who want to challenge for the leadership. First being the Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from the hard left, or you have the politically aligned the human rights Fabian Marxist alliance, Sadiq Khan as London Mayor.
Yes.
With the demographics of that constituency, is Sadiq Khan going to be parachuted into that constituency in the event of a by-election, which is his route back into Westminster, and he then going to challenge for the Labour leadership? Is this the route where we get our first Islamic Prime Minister of this country? And that is something I think we should all fear.
I'll tell you now, I had lunch with quite a while ago actually now, with a very senior member of the Labour Party who's a strategist as well.
Go
and
on,
he
name
said,
drop, Pete.
I'm not
name
dropping, but I'll tell you right now, he said the exact same thing. He said over Tulip Sadiq, and he said, as soon as this all came out about the connections, when he said, that's how Sadiq gets in. And I tell you, I happen to agree with you.
We're talking about Khan.
Yes,
Sadiq
about
Khan.
Sadiq Khan.
Yeah, Tulip Sadiq Khan.
Yeah.
I don't think Andy Burnham could win that constituency.
No, I don't think Andy Burnham was going to win anything
with
at this point.
Muslim vote hemorrhaging to your party, the Greens, you put an Islamic candidate in that seat, he will get in. And then he's in a position to challenge for Labour leadership, and ultimately the keys to
Honestly,
number 10.
I mean, Islam for me is very much down the list of why I hate Sadiq Khan. I don't think. I mean, it does. In fact, it's not a reason as to why I hate him. It's more that he's just incompetent.
Yeah.
I mean, he's genuinely destroyed the city. It's not a controversial opinion.
But so is Keir Starmer, and he's not Islamic.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You know, but
the demographics of that particular constituency are 40% Islamic. They are a clan-based system. They will follow the herd. If you put an Islamic candidate, especially one so prominent as the London Mayor, into that constituency, he will win, and he will bring back the Muslim vote to the Labour Party.
I don't know on that. But to be fair, there is also the argument that he's not a kind of he's a little bit too kind of metropolitan, really, for that constituency, in the sense that being the London mayor, he carries a lot of baggage with him. And if a newer candidate who seems to be from that community, more like kind of homegrown, as it were, you know, the appeal could be there against him, really. It's a lot. There's a lot to really to pull apart, but I have to admit, it is interesting how the kind of your party is going to play a huge role in London politics. We write them off as fringe lunatics, and the Greens, I'm throwing them in as well. But I tell you now, they could carry some real power in this country if we're not careful, because they are not a very good group of people. But they are fun to laugh at, but they, again, a dangerous idiot is still dangerous.
Exactly my point, Pete. The thing is, that's why I suggest that it's actually quite sinister with the rise of sectarian politics. You know, he's a follower of the faith. In that constituency, that's important.
Well, people like Tulip Sadiq just make me feel sick, to be honest.
She was always the worst of the Labour Party.
Yeah, she started the whole, corruption minister done for corruption, and then we started a whole trickle-down effect.
The ministers that took their brief too seriously. The homelessness one that made people homeless.
Yes, the housing minister that didn't pay her stamp duty. Hey, Ange, how are you? Speaking of future PMs, I think she still eyes the top job, strangely.
Self-awareness not around.
Yeah, well, no, it's never been one of her main character traits. You know, what's interesting is that when we do import, you know, the Muslim thing, okay, we can talk about that, but it's also about, you know, the corruption in Bangladesh. She's obviously been sentenced for 2 years in jail for that. Her aunt is a terrible person, objectively. Her aunt, Sheikh Hasina, was ousted last year and has since been sort of sentenced to death. Okay, so she's fled to India before she was arrested, but this is for opening fire, or not herself, but asking people to open fire on university students. This is not the caliber of politician that, you know, should be anywhere near power in Britain. And I'm not saying that she's accountable for what her aunt was accused of, but, you know, I just think we need British interests at
the tree, Samara.
Well, it's the fact that she had anything to do with her in the first place.
Well, she had lots of, precisely.
To have any dealings with her brings her into question, no matter, you know, religion or whatever. I think a person like that you shouldn't have dealings with. It's the same with Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein. It's just a relationship that just shouldn't exist.
But they do, for some reason, they do find each other, don't they, Simon? Really, really good call. Great insight.
Yeah, it's
Seriously,
an interesting
good
conversation
insight
for sure.
into that. Sadiq Khan for Prime Minister, do give me a call. 03444991000 is the number if you want to let me know how you would feel if Sadiq Khan was our Prime Minister. I mean, that's
I think realistically,
man.
the country would just say no.
Well, interestingly, he's a very smooth operator when he needs to.
He is in London. He is in London.
Let's talk to Mark in Lincolnshire. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hi there, Samara. Hi, Pete.
Hey.
Hi, Mark. How are you going?
Hi, guys. Yeah, not so bad. It's something that's of interest to me and hopefully to you guys and the listeners. Kind of wanted to discuss slightly, touching on to stuff like ethnocide, ethnic nationalism, that kind of stuff, really.
Just the light stuff for a Monday night, mate.
Nothing too difficult.
Really light stuff, because I never tackle any of those topics ever. Yeah, I mean...
No, we love you, Mark. You always come to us with jewels of wisdom.
Topics. Well, I love doing research on stuff like this, and I love getting to a political position on these things. Yeah, I mean, I've been considering myself an ethnat for quite a while.
And what is that to you?
What that to me is, I mean, it's like many, I think, now that, previously what would be classed as civic nationalists, become an ethnic nationalist. Not necessarily out of choice. For me, it's more of like I say, for many people, it's more of about a 90-10 split. So a 90% native population majority, 10% whoever, really, which is largely, people always kind of start clutching their pearls, and I think, well, hang on, why are you clutching your pearls? Because you only really have to go back 30 years or so, and that's pretty much what we were. That's back in the days when integration and immigration was working. We've had this discussion many times as to the reasons why it isn't working, and it always comes back to the same point. It's the sheer numbers of people that come in to the country.
Yeah, I think your position, to be honest, it sort of seems like it is just a reaction to mass migration. I don't think it's that you've just come to that by yourself.
The thing is, this is the thing, Samara, because I was just about to add that. It was never my decision, really, to become an ethnic nationalist.
Right.
I've become an ethnic nationalist because I've been forced to become an ethnic nationalist.
Right.
The reason I've been forced to become one is because governments for consecutive governments over decades now refuse to acknowledge the public's request continually that we want lower immigration, that we see the problem down the road. We don't want the problem. Stop bringing loads and loads of people in.
I think, I tell you what, I mean, I can really only speak from the Australian perspective because I am an Australian immigrant. I will let that be known. But Australia was actually quite good at treating itself like a golden ticket country. Yeah. And I think that's what Britain really lost its way with and didn't do. And I think that I agree with you. I actually, migration, not a terrible thing, needs to be done properly. Yeah. Otherwise, really bad things can happen. I'm not saying that's exactly what's happened with the UK, but it's not fair on the immigrants.
Yes, that's a big point. Yeah.
It's also not fair on the people who have lived in that country for generations. Yeah. Well, it's not fair on anyone.
What I will say is that I think of most ethno-nationalists very much like yourself, where they're forced into it. And I've always said this, that people don't have to tear down institutions at the moment. They're tearing themselves down because they won't tell the truth, they're not transparent, and they're incompetent. If these people are so terrified of all the racists and all the rest of it, be better at your jobs, and people won't be driven to that kind of politics that those people don't like. I think it's a perfectly reasonable position. My fear is if you overplay it in a mainstream political party, you are in for a world of hurt, because I look what happened when Reform wanted to shift around with Right to Remain. Their polling went down. So the country hasn't shifted as far as people think it has. The Everton window has moved, not that far.
Yeah, I think, you see, I've made this argument before as well, Pete, that we get this situation, I think you might have texted Samara when I made this point a few weeks back now.
You've got great memory, Mark, better than me.
Well, the point I was making at the time was that, I see a Reform government coming in. I see a Reform government collapsing within 2 to 3 years. And what I see happening is that we will end up electing a hard right government.
Said this. Yep, we said this just earlier on. My big fear is that if reform fail, that is a huge voter block of very angry people that will find somebody else to listen to, and bad people take advantage of those situations.
That's what I'm saying, Mark. I honestly feel a little bit but I feel like you've been pushed into this position, and you've been pushed into identifying that way as a ethno-nationalist, as you call yourself, and I don't think it's right. You know what? I mean, my dad was an immigrant. I'm an immigrant myself. Immigration can be a really good thing, but as I said, the way that the country has done it is probably not the best possible way for everyone involved. So that's probably what I would say. But thank you for your call, Mark. Really appreciate you calling. Let's go to Karen in Bournemouth. Karen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Samara. Hi, Peter.
Hey.
Hello.
My thinking is that I have a feeling that we're going to have an awful time in the May elections.
Okay.
There's going to be tons of intimidation for candidates, for voters, unless it's Islamic. And I think that Keir Starmer triggered the gun when he recognised Hamas. And he's importing Hamas. He's done a deal with China a long time ago that China, they want control in one sense, but they don't want the land, and they want Iran to run it, which is why they just want a super embassy. They don't particularly want anything else.
China, right?
They want Iran to do the dirty work and keep us morons under control. You won't see any females in Parliament or anywhere else because they'll just wipe them out. The intimidation and the violence that's going to come at these next elections.
Yeah, I have to admit, I was listening to an interview from a former kind of radical Islamic terrorist, and it was in Saudi Arabia.
All
or something
right,
like
Pete,
that.
is that what you do in your spare time?
Casual Monday view. But he was saying that actually, the way that the people take control is actually they use the left.
Yeah.
The left are the weapon, the way in for people who have nefarious actions. I'm afraid, and eventually the Islamist mob always turns on the left. It's as tale as old as time. My big fear, really, when it comes to the
party.
Yeah, exactly, my lord, is rather ridiculous. But it is my big fear is that intimidation is going to become part of our politics.
Yeah.
We're already seeing it with lots of allegations of false voting and all this kind of stuff, and it only cycles down because we don't tackle things. The big way we stop a lot of bad actors in politics: get rid of postal votes. Get rid of them.
I agree.
It's 100%. You want to save this country? That is step one.
I think there are things that will come out about postal voting.
But look at the intimidation that you had at the last general election with people like Jonathan Ashworth, Jess Phillips, and I have no love for either of them. But
well, look at West Streeting,
escalated phenomenally in the May elections, and it's going to be escalated if they don't take over enough in the May elections, because they're not really interested in running councils.
Look, I mean, I think this, I don't know about this Islamic takeover that you talk about and sort of lack of women in Parliament. I think the feminists will come round.
Well, they've already been captured, really, if you think about it.
Well, they have been captured, but I think, it's we're already seeing that these are completely dysfunctional political movements because they are completely at either ideological ends of the spectrum, and I don't think they're going to get that far down the road when the wheels are already falling off. 100%. So I think, yes, there is absolutely something to be fearful of, but I also think that it's a little bit of a paper tiger because they've got a lot of raw, but not much.
The one you have to be worried about is people just not voting at all. That's my bigger fear. Well, then it's actually the fringes take control because they're the only people motivated enough to turn out to vote. That's how you end up with lunatics running the asylum.
Well, Karen, make sure you take advantage of your democracy and make the most of it. That's Karen in Bournemouth there with some interesting concerns. Honestly, it's so interesting to hear.
Yes. By the way, on the super embassy, all you have to do is remember the embassy is nothing more than the building equivalent of two fingers. They already own everything. That is literally just the fact that they can say, look what we can do.
Just look. I mean, we're not meant to talk about China. We're not meant to talk about China, but it's not the UK. But just think about the Belt Road Initiative. Just Google it and just understand that they do own the world now, unfortunately, just under our noses. Forget about wars, forget about all that. China's bought up everything. Someone said the Chinese embassy in London should be denied until blacked out area on permission purpose is declared. Why is that area redacted? I couldn't get planning permission through council with consultation. Why? Oh my gosh, someone's really on the case there. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of issues, but yeah, I mean, Labour seems to love China for some reason. I do wonder why. After the break, we're going to talk about the doctors' strike. They are doubling down. They are doubling down on some of the days when we need them the most. What's new? That after the break.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you want a pay rise? Would you like more money? Would you like this, the state to keep shoveling money into your pocket? Well, that's kind of what the doctors want right now, even though they did receive a pay rise earlier in the year from Wes Streeting. He's kind of like that generous parent that, once he gives you something, you want even more. That's what's going on. Now, Wes Streeting has actually come out and sensibly said, no, you're not getting on any more money. Well, they've been rambunctious children, these junior doctors, in relation to this, and they've said, no, I want more. I want even more money from you. This is what's going on. They've now said just today that they're going to be striking over Christmas. This is usually when a lot of families need doctors the most, or when, you get a spare minute to go and get that appointment that you've been thinking about getting, that screening maybe, that important checkup. That's usually when people attend to this. But no, you won't be able to because the junior doctors are striking. Well, let's talk to someone in the profession who's also very politically minded as well. It's Myron Centenathan. Welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, Samara.
Well, Myron, what do you think about this? I mean, this is entitlement, is it not?
Yeah, I think we're used to actually seeing public sector workers as having a kind of halo of piety around them compared to the small business owners in the private sector and the entrepreneurs. But once you understand the motivations of the British Medical Association, the BMA, that halo starts to wear pretty thin, because all of this comes back to 2008, because the British Medical Association are basically saying that they've had a 22% pay cut since 2008, and they're trying to restore the balance.
Right.
But that's going back 17 years, and which
2008 was 17 years ago. Okay.
Right, but many of these resident doctors would have been about 10 years old. Yeah. So it's very strange that this is going on. I mean, they're asking for something that was really never on the table when they entered medical school. But the BMA are hoping on this 2008 figure very specifically and very intentionally, because this was a figure, a pay rise figure that before that, New Labour had given them successive above inflation pay rises up to 2008. So they're deliberately pinpointing that time to actually try and restore pay in line with that. But Ross Clark wrote an interesting article in The Spectator where he said they're using an index called the Retail Price Index, the RPI, which isn't really a sensible way to measure inflation pay rises. Instead, they should be using the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And when you use the Consumer Price Index, it's not 22% that they've been cut by, but it's 12%. Right. So, and that has been largely dealt with by the pay rise that Wes Streeting has introduced. So when you combine that with pensions that are 75% of their normal salary, which are index linked to inflation, I don't think the BMA have a case to answer for when it comes to pay. But I think they do have a case to answer when it comes to training places by bringing in foreign doctors, taking up training places, and domestic British doctors can't get those places.
Pete, I want to bring you in here because you're nodding your head. Yeah. You're agreeing with a lot of what Myron's saying. I mean, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a completely illogical strike.
Yeah, we're asking for logic from, left-wing socialists, so good luck. But no, Myron's perfectly right. But the one thing I do want to bring up is what you were saying about the kind of the halo that they have. Because if I hear one more junior doctor or someone in the medical profession saying, well, we don't want to go on strike, we think it's really mean. Shut up. It is greed. It is nothing but unadulterated greed. And that's all they care about. It is money, money, money. I go to the case of John Doyle, who in 2023, he sadly passed away, and it was written in the... what do they call it after? The kind of... when you pass away.
In the morgue?
Yes, yeah. It was actually recorded that the doctor's strike played a significant role in not treating him in time to save his life.
Oh, right, when they did the coroner's report.
Coroner's report, that's the phrase I'm looking for.
Yes.
And that was a huge part of why that man passed away. They are choosing money over actually looking after their patients. And if any, like I said, that one phrase of like, oh, well, we don't want to. Oh, we're all such nice people. No, you're not. And I'm sorry, they have to be pushed off their perch once every now and again.
I mean, yes, I got into a very spirited debate with one doctor who said, I want to be inspired every time I come to work. Okay, well, goodness me, if everyone wants to be inspired every day at work, then that's a very unrealistic expectation to have. And I think that's just the issue. And you've also hit the nail on the head. In 2008, most of these junior doctors were children, which is fine, but the world that they fantasize about no longer exists, and they grew up in a culture of 9th place medals and participation awards, and I feel like they're expecting the same within their profession. I think that's almost what it comes down to, because doctors never used to be like this. We didn't used to have strikes again and again and again.
Particularly not in winter, because for as long as I've been alive, every winter we have there's an NHS crisis. I mean, like, you could set your watch by it, really. But, like, this is the point, is they're choosing to go at the worst time to then say that they don't want to. I'm sorry, stop lying.
Yeah, no, look, what I would also add is that doctors need to be made aware that we don't live in a free market healthcare system. We live in effectively a socialised healthcare system. So when they strike, people die. And the Tories, to their credit, did introduce this kind of minimal service situation when it comes to kind of unions and public sector strikes and so on. So I would go further and just simply say doctors should be banned from striking.
Agreed.
And if the left say, look, how can a doctor protest against pay and working conditions? I would say leave the NHS, go to the private sector, or go to Australia. And then the government has to face choices about how they can entice them back. That's a much more fluid and healthy situation rather than these blanket strikes that are going on. And these medical doctors need to be made aware that they are, although they come out with a lot of debt, maybe 100,000 was a lot of debt they come out with, their degree is heavily subsidised. So I would implement some kind of loyalty to the NHS, mandatory service after they qualify, at least a few years towards the NHS to stop this from happening.
Yeah, 100% agree on that, and I've been arguing that should have been part and parcel of the deal, saying, like, look, we will put you through the training, we'll pay for all of it, you do at least 5-6 years in the NHS minimum. I mean, it's just absurd to me that they just keep demanding more, but yet again, we had a government that just gave away free money, so I don't really, of course they're going to come back round. You give food to stray dogs.
But also the employment rights bill that's coming through, the minimum wage increases that are being put up, that doesn't just affect the private sector. That will also affect the NHS. And junior doctors will look at the minimum wage, because the minimum wage is not just for the minimum wage people, it's a reference point for all wages, for all salaries.
Great point.
So the BMA will use the minimum wage rise to even push their demands even higher. But who's really benefiting are the senior doctors who are going to be filling in the spaces for those who are striking.
Correct.
According to the Telegraph, they might earn something like £6,000 on a weekend, on an on-call weekend. So they're printing money out of this.
Totally. And I think, I actually got to give it to the senior doctors. They did the hard yards. And I think that a lot of these people, I mean, I know some junior doctors, they do believe that they are destined for 6 figures straight out of university. And unfortunately, there are no jobs that really, a very, very fair few that will entitle you to that. A lot of this is rooted in entitlement. You need to do the time in order to get the big paycheck. That's what it's about. But I think that they've been promised this false future of, buckets full of cash, and it's just not true. Unfortunately, they should actually be caring about the patients and not the money. But the medical profession's been sold as a very different thing to many
no longer
of them.
Calling.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. And a lot of people do get pushed into it for all the wrong reasons. So I've got to agree with you on that. I mean, Myron, among being a medical professional, you are also a political commentator, a great one at that. I want to get your thoughts on this. There are some deported Albanians. They're paying up to £20,000 to sneak back into the UK. So, essentially, we've got deportation flights happening quite regularly for these Albanian criminals. But apparently, analysis of these court records show multiple cases of Albanian criminals being sentenced to further offences after returning to the UK. So they're being smuggled back into the UK on the back of lorries or in yachts. That seems very nice. And they're paying almost $20,000 to do so. Now, I'm not surprised in the slightest by this. I was talking to someone in the migration industry, and he was saying, some people will pay £50,000 just as a landing fee to get even a 1-week visa into some other countries. So when you hear Shabana Mahmood, our Home Secretary, say, oh, if you come here, you might only be able to stay 20 years, that's no deterrent, is it?
Yeah, these are not individuals who are looking to integrate into society and eventually become upstanding British citizens. So Shabana Mahmood's kind of deterrent of 20 years doesn't really make any sense to them. She's living in a parallel universe. And she talks tough, but at the end of the day, she's making safe and legal routes. She's even talking about work and study routes to come in. So we have to start asking a question. Why are these people paying such extortionate amounts of money to come here as opposed to anywhere else? There is a febrile, hot breeding ground for crime, drugs, and the black economy. We need to tackle that. The incentives are way too strong. It's not only me saying it, it's not even you saying it. It's the ex-French Interior Minister who was saying it all along.
Yes.
The incentives are pulling everybody here, and Labour have no will to actually tackle the things at the actual source of the issue.
100%. And honestly, you're right. Other countries are laughing at us because it's just like...
Sorry to interrupt that. They're not just laughing at us. They're infuriated at us as well. I know that, for example, if you look at the Mayor of Calais, she blasts Britain all the time because, their place is being decimated because they're trying to get to Britain.
Yeah, but we've given them so much money. Yeah. We've given them well over £500 million.
Yeah, my favourite thing is they're going to wade halfway into the water, but I'm like, I bet it depends how far they have to go into the water.
The gendarmes are a joke. I mean, it's just, they don't want. They're very happy that they can go over to the land of milk and honey, which is Britain, compared to France, where they get a tent. So, yeah, there is that. But Gosh, I mean, we could talk about this all night. I'm getting a lot of texts about the BMA, and a lot of people affirming what you're saying, Myron. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. That's Myron Centenathan. He is a dentist and also a former Reform UK candidate. He speaks a lot of sense, I gotta say. I mean, just in political commentating
I think he makes a really good point about how the position of a doctor in society has really been denigrated by the kind of current crop that we've got. You know, they once were looked up to and highly respected, and now I think, you know, the money grubby aspect of it has been made very clear to people, and that's also a very dangerous thing to do because it means people don't trust doctors as much, and that's not a good place for our society to be.
Bring back the matrons, that's what I say.
Yes.
They were bloody good.
Terrifying.
They were terrifying, but I tell you what, they were good at counting the coins.
Yes.
They were good. They used to be the ones who would balance the books even in the hospital.
It's like I said to you about the kind of the problems of the BBC, is they've lost that kind of institutional memory about how things actually should be done, because the people have either retired too early or they've not been promoted enough, or trained right. It's all been corporatized, but unfortunately not along the ways of how to be efficient.
No.
All
just
the worst
throwing
bits.
more money at the situation. That's what it's been. Your calls after the break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back. Well, Anonymous says Wes Streeting should introduce legislation to stop doctors striking in Parliament. Perhaps patients could sue the BMA for cancelled appointments and pain. Not the NHS, but the union. Yes, I think that's true. I mean, obviously the police aren't allowed to strike in the country.
Fire service.
Army.
They varied. Yeah, the army. Yeah, I've always said this actually.
We can do it. We can do this.
Because yet again, they push the rest of the country into it because of how they behave. You know, I don't really like the idea that a profession can't strike. I think it's a very important legal right. But when you start doing it at the time of what's going to be probably another big national crisis in the NHS, there is a reason you've done it, and it's deliberate, and I think you should be held accountable for that, particularly when we have now documented deaths that state that your actions have caused that. I think there is a real argument for it.
Should we ban the doctors from striking? Do give me a call on 03444991000. I've got one line available if you want to try and get in there. Let's talk to Grace in London. Hi, Grace.
Hi.
Hello there. What did you want to say to Pete and I, me and Pete? By this point in the show, I never know which one goes the right way around. Journalism.
Ladies first.
That's me then.
Grace, what did you want to say about the doctor strike? You think it's selfish. That's an interesting position for you. You're usually on the side of the brave and the bold.
Well, I think that what matters is to aim, if possible, towards selflessness.
Right.
And to be supportive of the people who are more disadvantaged over those who are less disadvantaged. And people who are going to earn in their lifetime as much as junior doctors are not really the people who I think are in the greatest need, whereas people who are sick are in greater need. I find it flipping odd, actually, that I've seen more from Jeremy Corbyn in the last few years to support junior doctors striking than I have seen him complaining about how there are some people in our world who don't even have access to basic medical care. And as someone
that's a great point, Grace.
Someone who supposedly cares about social justice, you'd think he might be instead, criticising our government for cutting programs for vaccinations for small children around the world. But I've seen him talk more about getting more money for junior doctors, and I don't really understand that. And I get that being a doctor is a ridiculously stressful job and an incredibly important job, but I think that all the people in our society who are doing a job are really significant in one way or another, and I see elitism in the junior doctors striking. I think, if a person is cleaning the floors in hospital or tarmacking the road so doctors can get to hospital, or they're a teacher in a school so that they were able to begin their education on the way to becoming a doctor, or they're a scientist who came up with the treatments that doctors are able to use. Lots of people have, or they're a farmer who provides food. So lots of people have significance. And it seems to me like the junior doctor strikes are very elitist.
Yeah.
And as I said, it's about selfishness. We talk sometimes about our country losing its Christian values, and a key Christian value is selflessness. And instead, we've got this move in our society towards thinking the good thing is to always do as much as you can to get what you want personally. And that's what I find really concerning about our country is seeing that selfishness kind of become almost seen as a good thing, to stick up for your own wants more than other people, and being selfless in the way that we used to think we should aim towards. And I feel perturbed by the way that it's become a kind of moral cause to demand more for oneself.
Yeah, by the way, fantastic use of the word perturbed. I love that word. But I do actually agree with you, because what I find most repugnant is actually the halo polishing of these people, is that they think them striking is for everybody else's good.
It is the common line, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Well, then go to work.
Yeah, and I think the one way that we kind of bring back selfishness, and I go back to my point, it's about holding people accountable when they do something bad, when they actually fail at something, because too many people seem to get away with it. And that's how that kind of arrogance spreads in our society, whether those at the very top, whether it be professionally or financially or whatever, seem to be able to do one thing while everybody else gets to do and has to pay the price, as it were. I do think that kind of, oh well, look at me, I'm in this group, it just become more pervasive in our society. And you're right that we have become a lot more greedy as a nation, as a people. And I do think whilst we blame politicians for a lot of it, we have to look at ourselves and say that maybe we're part of the problem.
I think it's so true that we ought to also look at ourselves, because I think we can too easily, and I'm sure I do this myself, to kind of observe other people in society and feel frustrated by what they're doing. But we do need to look at ourselves too. I think that's really important, and we've lost that to some extent. So that's a really good point to make. Sometimes we think those people on the side of the political aisle that are opposed are all wrong, but human beings are a bit more complicated than that, and we've all got to address our own flaws and think about how the society that we're in could be impacting our own flaws as well.
True. Definitely. I mean, but you know what as well, though? There is something about the NHS that, again, reminds me of the BBC. It's like they've got an unlimited slush fund, and they genuinely, even if they're asking for a pay rise, it doesn't really mean much to them, because it's just the taxpayer dollar that's getting, that's paying it. I do believe that we could do with a system that was just a little bit more competitive. Now, I know that everyone starts to get upset with that, because they think, oh God, we're going to have Granny dying on the floor, and we're not going to be able to, have her attended to because, we didn't pay our pay up, or we didn't put our card down. I'm not advocating for that sort of system, but I am advocating for something that's a little bit more effective and competitive so that we can put an end to people feeling so comfortable that they ask for a 22% pay rise. I don't know anyone who's received a 22% pay rise in the last year. I genuinely couldn't tell you any profession that's received a 22% pay rise.
I can't think of a single one in the public or in the private sector, but I do think it is reform of the NHS that is actually going to save it. We are holding up a kind of fallen icon, as it were. Like, I mean, we had a church service for its anniversary. I mean, at what point do we think that maybe worshipping at that altar is not a good idea, because you're not helping anybody? Because you talk about, you know, not being able to help Granny who's dying on the floor. Well, this is happening in real life.
That's what I mean. It's happening in the NHS
now.
when the NHS has had more money.
I think you make a really good point here about making it more competitive would mean people would have to not work harder, but actually be more invested in what they're doing, because there are other alternatives. We have a kind of deity of an NHS because there is no alternative. Not really, not in the way that there should be. Like many European nations, I always find it funny, we always go to America. We don't talk about French healthcare, which is significantly better than ours.
Yes, or Swiss, or German.
I mean, pick a European country.
I mean, you know, there's many people, many Ukrainian refugees who have literally gone back to Ukraine to receive medical treatment instead of coming here. So I agree with you. We totally deify the NHS, and we just can't go on like this. Grace in London, thank you so much for your call. We're going to head to break, but I'm seeing lots of calls coming through. Do give me one on 0344 499 1000. More of your calls after these messages.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, after this, at 10 p.m. through to the small hours, through to 1 a.m., you will have Petri Hoskin. So if you didn't get your call in, definitely be sure to call her up and vent, because she's a great woman to vent to. And she'll definitely be discussing kind of all the top topics of the day, and she'll also be doing a paper review as well, so a lot to tune in with Petri Hoskin 10 to 1. Make sure you're there. It's an unmissable show, and she really does kind of take you into the next day in a very peaceful, calm way before everything goes to
it's a nice way to
hell.
kind of
yeah it's a nice way to just breathe out before the calm before the storm, as you would say. Let's go to Dan in Liverpool. Dan, welcome to the show.
Well, hello there, Samara. Can I just say there's quite a comedic irony that the BBC are complaining about misinformation.
Yeah.
Yes.
For me, it'll always be the fact that the woman who runs BBC Verified lied on her CV.
What? I didn't know about
Do you not know about this?
No.
Yeah, the woman who actually runs it, and it turns out that she over-egged a kind of position that she had and everything. And I mean, like, that's the woman you're choosing to verify everything, is a person who didn't, who needs verifying herself after that.
BBC Verify is the greatest joke of the whole BBC organisation.
It's like, we've got a problem, well, but we made this to make it better. Yeah, that's not how that works.
I'm not going to lie, you're making my eye twitch now that I've found out another person has lied on their CV. Is there something wrong with... Do we actually live in a sensible world? What is going on? We've got... I
think it's over-promoted, underqualified.
Welcome to post-truth.
Yeah.
This is why we bang on about the need to challenge people who say, it's my truth, it's my truth. No, objective reality, people. Let's live in it for 10 minutes. We might learn something.
Well, I'll say some of my truth, and I'm actually going to throw Keir Starmer a lifeline here.
All right, Dan. Jeez, Dan, I thought you were talking sense until now. What's going on?
No, I've got an idea about how he can actually profit from this a bit.
Okay, go on. We know he likes his expensive spectacles, so...
No, we're not talking about Lord Ali right here.
No.
What we should say is he should actually say, for the good of the people, Rachel Reeves should resign. And because he is a kind, generous person and a man of the people and the working people, he will replace her with Angela Rayner.
Someone who doesn't even know how to manage her own finances.
I mean, detail's not that woman's greatest skill.
Well, we might as well make it a good one. I hope you two have a lovely night.
Are you saying we might as well just take the entire economy?
I'm going to say, if we're going to go down, let's go down with a laugh.
Should we light a match and just light the country on fire?
Ironic, actually, I do have a bet for Angela Rayner to be next Prime Minister.
Go on. So this is all a personal... This is personal for you, Dan.
It will be 40
I thought you were being mad.
40 grand? That's not a bad bet.
£2,000 at the start I put on, and if she wins, I might even pay off her debt.
You can give her the money.
So you would, you'd be able to have a house in Hove or whatever she says.
Wow.
Dan, that was a terrible.
Northern accent. As a northerner, I feel very perturbed by that.
Yeah, I've just assaulted you right. Yeah, I've assaulted you right now, Pete. I just can't get her mind out because we've always had Intel lady on the show, so she makes it look easy. So I've really become very, very overly confident. Dan, thank you for your call. Let's go to Larry in Merseyside. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hi.
What did you want to say?
You mentioned before about getting a matron back in hospital.
Yes, bring back the matrons.
Yes. Well, I remember the day of the matron because I was a student in the 76s. And the matron really did control the place.
Right.
And on the weekend, I have cardiac problems now.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's horrible. I was admitted after 5 hours sitting in an ambulance into a local casualty department. The doctors were wandering around in the most unironed, scruffy scrubs. No doctors had any makeup on. No doctors had their hair brushed. They looked like tramps. And in the past, my husband was a young doctor in the past.
Sounds like me before I come into work.
Yeah, I never, ever sent him out to work looking like a complete tramp.
Right.
These doctors, if they get a rise, perhaps they'll be able to afford to to tidy themselves up and buy some clothes.
Do they look like that? Because they're sort of they are, you know, really taking care of patients, working long hours.
It's about standards. That's what it is.
Well,
it's about holding yourself to a standard.
You want wait. Yeah, I mean, you want a doctor with a full face of makeup?
No, but I want somebody that seems to take personal care of themselves, that actually wants to present themselves in a professional way. It's one of the reasons I hate it when people in Parliament don't turn up with a tie.
Yeah.
It sounds such a really small thing, but, you know, actually being in a kind of uniform and it being like you actually put yourself together quite well means that you care about something. And it's just those small little things that we've let slip. And now that's when you let the bigger stuff even go after it.
They can't afford the makeup.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It's too expensive.
With that 20% increase.
They only got a 22% pay rise, Pete.
I know.
There's no personal care. They look, and when they told me that I'd be seen shortly, 5 hours later, you'll be.
To be honest, 5 hours is not a bad wait time in the NHS these days, I have to admit.
No,
but yeah.
The doctors coming on, there'll be 10 of them coming on, and you'll be seen, and you're all put in an order of priority of importance. And I'm sitting there with uncontrolled heart that's rippling away.
Larry, that's horrible, honestly. It's 5 hours when you needed urgent care. I mean, that's not first world country, is it? That's sort of backwater. Honestly, someone else has said junior doctors need to remember what a huge responsibility they hold when caring for and maintaining life. Their actions are flagrant and it's disregard for those trying to sustain life and care. They should be fired for thinking they can effectively use life or death as a bargaining tool. It's shocking behaviour. And they're right. They are using life or death as a bargaining tool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Larry, would you agree with that?
I think they're using it as a damn good excuse. They're rough and ready now.
Tell you a damn good excuse. Someone else has said Lammy reminds me of a character of Sesame Street. That sort of ridiculous, silly, stupid, laughable figure. But the problem is he's supposed to be a serious diplomatic figure. The bloke is a joke.
I don't know. I think that's offensive to Muppets.
These doctors look like Lammy's kids. You know, scruffed up to the eyeballs.
That's someone who... But remember when he wore Skechers to a diplomatic trip? That's someone who needs a proper wardrobe.
It's those little things that there's standards like, oh, it doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. They do matter because it's about how you present yourself to the world. Yeah. And I have to admit that, you know, the left have always been known as the scruffy ones, but they've taken it to a whole new level. I have to, not a fan.
Nationalism in the career anymore.
Yeah, it's not. You're right. I do think that it does show exactly who these people are and kind of what they think of the job. It used to be a very, very heralded job being a doctor, and it just seems like right now it's just another grab at a pay rise.